in governance.
As long as there are low rates of participation in elections, the system is less effective with regard to the impacts that the government can have.
As we heard from our previous expert witness, some citizens see public protests as a way to get their voices heard sooner.
And all the time in the Moroccan history, there were many protests along the decades. And there is no way that these protests can stop unless there is a clear and visible public policy that responds to citizens' needs and that can engage citizens in the process of decision-making. Otherwise, there will be all the time protests. And this is the case for Morocco, and I think also the case for any other country.
So will public challenges to the formal political system become a more common way to get things done?
I think there is no way of making change outside the actual system as it's developed by the constitution that was voted for by Moroccan citizens. I think the change through that constitution is possible and it can lead to big changes.
But this is a constitutional monarchy, remember, so what about concerns over the influence of business and political elites?
I think the biggest obstacle is the participation rate in elections. This is the most important obstacle. So when you have high rates of participation, then citizens can select the political party that can serve their interests. Then all the lobbyists that are against change might go backwards and have less influence. But it's a big challenge for implementation that needs an elite, that needs a process, and needs massive participation in election, and also holding public servants accountable.
Sorry, did you say it needs a new elite?
Yeah, for sure. Morocco needs a new elite that is aware about how to develop a constructive, effective, efficient public policy, and how to reach out to citizens, and how to include citizens in the decision-making, and how to communicate about the results. Sometimes we find some results that are good. People are not aware enough. I think that the current elite, especially at the government and the political parties and the territorial collectivities at the local level, they need a restructure and they need a big change so that the big change in the country can happen and responsiveness to citizens' needs can be in place.
Morocco's official general election campaign period opens on September the 10th, ahead of the vote on the 23rd.
The change should be reflected on citizens' daily lives. They should live better, they should have more access to education, to the job market, and so on. These results are the results that people are waiting for.
So, returning to our main question, can elections restore Moroccans' faith in their country? For some, trust in political representation is broken. Protesting citizens want change to happen within the formal political system. Gaining and maintaining voter support requires tangible turnarounds in youth unemployment, public services and regional inequality. Also crucial is public confidence that their elected decision-makers can navigate political elites to strike the right balance between economic development and social reform. This edition of The Inquiry was written and presented by me, Charmaine Cozier. The producer was Jill Collins, researcher Evie Yabsley, editor Tom Bigwood, and technical
Well, good morning, Manitoba. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio One, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Manitoba YouTube page. I'm Corey Funk, in this week for Marcy Marcusa. Good to be with you. It is Wednesday, August 26th, 6th. Hope you're having yourselves a lovely week. Let's say hello to the wonderful crew helping put together today's show. John George is behind the glass, behind the controls this morning. Abby Adeyemi is on our weather today, keeping an eye on that. And Sierra Sanders is our studio director, keeping an eye on your commute. And Darren Morash is our YouTube producer. And I, once again, am Corey Funk. Let's say hello now as well to Heather Wells, who's in now with a look at news headlines. Hello.
Good morning. Well, some business owners in Manitoba don't think counter tariffs are the way to go when it comes to hitting back against the U.S. tariffs. Canada's counter tariffs will target steel and aluminum, among other products. Barry Weeb owns Weeb Steel Structures in Morden. He says the counter tariffs on U.S. steel will have to be passed down to his customers. He says the U.S. has always been a good neighbor and a strong leader. He doesn't think counter tariffs will work. Some fresh produce, meanwhile, from the U.S. is reaching kitchen tables in Manitoba, but not through the grocery store. Harvest Manitoba says fruit and vegetables grown in the U.S. are being left on store shelves, and so the food bank is making sure less of that goes to waste. We're going to hear from the president of the food bank coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That's Heather Wells at your CBC News Desk. Really interesting show coming up for you today. Coming up after 7 o'clock, some interesting stories for you. A Brandon man who created an app to help Canadians find locally made products says the app has been so popular that other countries reached out to try and follow suit and also support Canada. So we're going to hear from him at 7:50. Also at 7:40, it's been closed since 2020, but Winnipeg's Revolving Restaurant has a new tenant. We're going to speak to the man who plans to open a brand new fusion restaurant up at that Revolving Restaurant very soon. And also this next hour, we're going to hear about new glasses designed to help nearsighted children with our house doctor, Raj Bardwaj. That's coming up after World Report. Stay tuned.
Q. You may have heard the news that cultural icon, country music star Dolly Parton died this week. She was 80. Over the years, I was lucky enough to speak with Dolly a few times, so you're going to hear one of our conversations, the one from 2020, and she talks about writing one of her biggest hits, Jolene.
Please don't take it even though you can.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Martina Fitzgerald. We begin with developing news from Pakistan and a warning to our listeners. The details of this story are disturbing. At least 14 babies have died in a fire at a hospital nursery. It happened at the Pakistan Institute of Medical Sciences in Islamabad. At least one baby was rescued. Officials say the fire started after an air conditioning unit exploded inside the nursery. This woman was at the hospital when the fire broke out.
At around 6 a.m., the fire erupted, but the staff and doctors did not inform us about this. Rather, they fled the scene and saved their own lives. There was a lady who screamed and informed us. When I went upstairs, the fire was spread so much that it reached our room. Then I first rescued my nephew, then I evacuated my sister-in-law.
A number of government agencies have been called in to investigate. Pakistan's president is urging hospitals to re-examine their fire safety measures, particularly in wards caring for newborns. In Nepal, a rescue chopper hovers above the valleys of Nepal's northern Rasua district. There is no safe place to land after floodwaters washed away entire villages. At least 9 people are dead, hundreds of others are missing, among them 291 foreign nationals. Officials say an avalanche of ice and rock triggered massive flash flooding as the debris swept through the river valleys of the Himalayan region. In just under 2 weeks, Canada's counter tariffs against the U.S. will go into effect. Nearly 900 U.S. products will be hit with billions of dollars in retaliatory tariffs. This growing trade war between Canada and the U.S. could hit some states harder than others. Ohio, a red state, is one of them. Its relationships in the steel and manufacturing sectors deeply intertwine with Canada. And as the CBC's Katie Nicholson reports from Ohio, some there are wondering if the tariff tiff could swing the state blue in the coming midterms.
As players shake hands against a pink sunset on a Youngstown, Ohio baseball diamond, Patricia Vandervoort and her friend Pam Hall are thinking about a very different game being played with much higher stakes.
We don't want Canada to hold it against us citizens. It's not us.
Yeah, it's not us. We don't like them any more than you do.
The women aghast at the escalating trade war between Canada and the U.S. that will likely impact Youngstown, once the heart of America's steel country.
Everything's going to be more expensive.
And it'll affect our factories. People will lose their jobs.
Canada is Ohio's biggest customer, consuming 1/3 of its exports. Many about to become more expensive as Canadian counter tariffs kick in, which could carry political ramifications, says Larry Kelly, leaning against a van in a parking lot with his teammates.
I think it's going to have a dramatic effect on the midterms.
You always have a midterm swing. This could cause the pendulum to swing a little bit more.
Guy Caviello is the president of Youngstown's regional chamber. While he says the data shows that the tariff war is doing more damage than good, some businesses have reaped benefits.
Sometimes in those meetings, I've got a chamber member that is trying to argue against tariffs sitting across the table from a chamber member that's embracing the tariffs.
Whether that embrace leads to Republicans retaining seats, a question that will be answered in 10 short weeks. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Youngstown, Ohio.
At a time when Canadians are being encouraged to keep their elbows up and buy Canadian, one grocer is facing fierce backlash. Loblaw recently dropped the country of origin information on its produce, meaning customers couldn't see what was grown here in Canada. But as Sophia Harris reports, CBC News reached out, and now the company is backtracking.
It seems to me like a really un-Canadian thing to do during these times. And
Carl Mueller of Edmonton says he's one of those elbows up people. So he was disappointed when he recently noticed his local Loblaw-owned superstore had dropped country of origin labeling for fresh produce, leaving shoppers on their own to figure out where their produce comes from.
As just an ordinary citizen, my only way of fighting back is to support Canadian businesses, to shop local.
Loblaw dropped the produce labels earlier this month in stores in most provinces, sparking customer backlash.
They're probably thinking, boy, we picked the wrong week to pull the labeling.
University of Alberta agricultural economist Ellen Goddard predicted on Monday Loblaw would rethink its decision following the launch of a fresh Canada-U.S. trade war.
I suspect they're counting the number of messages and social media blogs they are seeing and phone calls they're getting from customers.
After CBC News reached out to Loblaw, the grocer said it's bringing back the country of origin signage in their fresh produce aisles. We shared the news with Mueller.
I think that's wonderful, and it shows you the power of ordinary people making their voices heard.
However, Mueller says he won't fully rejoice until he sees country of origin labels back in his superstore. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
Less than 20 kilometers from Newfoundland and Labrador, climate change is forcing the residents of a French island to move. For years, rising sea levels and frequent storms have been a threat to the residents of Saint-Pierre and Miquelon. As Mark Quinn reports, locals are now hoping to relocate one of its towns completely.
Si aujourd'hui on n'avait rien fait, c'est sûr et certain que Miquelon serait mort sur le long terme.
Miquelon's mayor, Franck Detcheverry, says if nothing is done today, the village is certain to disappear. Most of Miquelon's 600 residents live on an isthmus of sand and stones, only 2 meters above sea level. They're witnessing erosion caused by more frequent and more violent storms. In 2014, French authorities prohibited construction in the town's most exposed areas. And then in 2022, Hurricane Fiona hit hard. The ferocious storm that destroyed more than 100 homes in Newfoundland accelerated Miquelon's plan to abandon its current site and rebuild 2 kilometers inland. Detcheverry says relocating is expected to cost more than 300 million Canadian dollars. The community will rely on a French fund for properties threatened by natural disasters and climate change. He believes if the community asks for the money little by little, it's more likely to get it. So far, 9 homes are under construction. Mayor Detcheverry says it's impossible to say just how long it will take to build about 300 homes and public buildings.
En fait, on en a aucune idée.
French President Emmanuel Macron is scheduled to visit Saint-Pierre-et-Miquelon in September. The town hopes he'll announce more money for its massive relocation project. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Fans and fellow musicians are sharing their tributes to and memories of Dolly Parton. The country music legend, actor, and philanthropist died at the age of 80 after a brief battle with cancer. Steve Futterman reports.
Throughout the world, her voice is reverberating. Yesterday, here in Los Angeles, flowers were placed on Dolly Parton's star on the Hollywood Boulevard Walk of Fame. Fans came to remember.
Life is not always about sorrow, it's about celebration.
Some got emotional.
She was my icon, so it's hard to see an icon go.
In the UK, at a theatrical performance of 9 to 5, Dolly Parton's most successful film, they paid tribute.
We dedicate tonight's performance to Dolly Parton.
In death yesterday, Dolly Parton did something very rare in 2026. She brought a bit of unity. Donald Trump paid tribute to her, so did New York Mayor Zoran Mamdani. What was it that made Dolly Parton so great? The talent, of course, the beautiful, distinctive soprano. There was also the honesty of her lyrics. In Coat of Many Colors, she sings about wearing a coat made of rags by her mother and being shunned by schoolmates. It really happened.
My coat of many colors that my mama made for me.
In so many ways, Dolly Parton was a larger-than-life figure. Today, millions of fans are making it clear they will always love her. Steve Futterman, CBC News, Los Angeles.
I could be in my coat of many colors my mama made for me.
There is much more on Dolly Parton on our website, including lots of career highlights and quotes, including from a show in Moose Jaw 10 years ago. The crowd was 4,500 people at a curling rink. Go to cbcnews.ca. That's the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Martina Fitzgerald. This is CBC News.
Many colors my mama made for me. And oh, I couldn't understand it, for I felt I was rich, and I told him all the love.
Well, you bet you're going to be hearing a lot more Dolly Parton today on this show. Actually, after 8, we're going to hear from a Manitoban who actually worked for her charity and helped to bring her book charity in particular to First Nations across Manitoba. Got to meet Dolly in person. Truly a life well lived. Well, good morning, Manitoba. I'm Corey Funk in for Marcy Marcusa. Good to be with you. Coming up this hour, though, on Information Radio, as the cross-border trade war heats up, Canadian culture and who controls our streaming is emerging as a big point of contention. Coming up, how your Netflix homepage became a sovereignty issue. Also, with the U.S. trade war as heating up as midterm elections in the States draw closer, will Canada's counter tariffs play a role in how Americans vote this fall? That conversation just ahead. Also, first up on the show, Dr. Raj Bardwaj joins us about a special glasses designed to help nearsighted children. A new research actually suggests glasses work by changing how children's eyes actually develop as they grow. So we're going to bring the details to you just ahead. But right now, though, at 6:11, let's check in with Heather Wells with a look at news headlines.
Good morning. Well, Winnipeg police are adding an AI translation tool to body-worn cameras being tested by officers.
Language set to Russian.
Deputy Chief George Labossiere says the program has more than 50 languages in its database and will allow officers to interact with the public in the language of their choice. Police hope to launch that translation feature by Friday. The owner of a company that sets up solar systems is bracing for the impact of the Canadian counter tariffs on some electronics he imports from the U.S. That's one of the areas Canada's hitting back with a 25% tariff. Reynold Pambrun runs Ray Solar out of Winnipeg and Kenora, and some of the components for the solar systems come from the U.S. He says the relief measures unveiled by Ottawa will help a bit. We'll hear more coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That's Heather Wells at your CBC News Desk. Well, let's check in now with Abby Adeyemi, who's in with a look at your commute. Hi.
Hi,
Oh, not
Corey.
commute, your weather, sorry.
Yeah, of course, you need weather if you're going to be stepping out today. It's going to be a beautiful sunny one across the southern regions. Up north, we're still going to see mostly passing clouds and a few showers. Here in the city, we're starting at 19 at the Forks, the airport clicking around 17 degrees, just a few clouds. We're expecting a mainly sunny day in the city today as we warm to 24. And that's what we will see across most of the southern regions. Temperatures already near 16 degrees and most regions will get close to 25. While up north, it's more about some clear conditions into partly cloudy skies with highs near 23 degrees. So overall, plenty of sunshine to go around today. Just a few clouds and a few showers in the northern regions. But Winnipeg right now, we're looking at 19 degrees. It's going to be sunny today and we get to 24 later.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
That's Abby Adeyemi behind the glass here. Sanders is in with a look at your commute for real.
Yes, or maybe Abby and I should just all of a sudden do a switcheroo, and I'll do weather, he'll do traffic.
Everything topsy-turvy, very exciting.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I think we'll stick with what we have for right now. I think we have a good thing going here.
Yeah, for sure.
And so far, your commute's looking pretty good out there. Not hearing about any major incidents or backups as we kick off the show this fine Wednesday morning. But if that changes throughout the morning, I would love to hear from you, no matter where you are here in the province and no matter how you're getting around. It'd be great to hear from you. So you can give me a call on the CBC Commuter line. That number's 204-788-3093.
Well, up next here on the show, as mentioned, a new study suggests that specially designed glasses can slow down the progression of nearsightedness in children. The glasses are made to change how children's eyes develop, and it could be an important leap forward as cases of nearsightedness are on the rise worldwide. Now, the research was published in the medical journal JAMA Ophthalmology last week, and for more on this, we're joined by our regular guide to health and medicine, Dr. Raj Bardwaj. Good morning.
Good morning, Corey.
Well, first of all, for those who can't keep it straight, can you just remind us the difference between being nearsighted and farsighted?
For sure. Yeah, just a quick anatomy lesson. Eyeballs are amazing. They are literally hollow balls with a hole for the light to come in the front and light receptors on the inner part of the back of the eyeball called your retina. The light needs to focus on the retina for us to see clearly. In some people, the light that lands on the retina is a bit out of focus. And if the image is landing clearly in front of the retina, then we call you nearsighted, which means that you can see things near you quite clearly, but things far away from you are out of focus. The medical word for nearsightedness is myopia. On the other hand, if the light gets focused just past the retina, then you can still see things far away relatively clearly. You are farsighted, but things close up are out of focus. The main reason that light sometimes doesn't focus right on the surface of the retina, especially in myopia, is because the eyeball basically grows too long from front to back. So instead of a nice spherical ball like a ping pong ball, your eyeball can grow slightly sausage shaped and the retina gets too far away for the image to be focused on it.
So this study in particular looked at how to slow down nearsightedness in kids. So why did they focus on that?
Yeah, two main things. So one is, like you said, it's becoming more common. Worldwide, it's estimated that 50% of people will need glasses for nearsightedness by the year 2050. And there are a bunch of potential reasons why nearsightedness is becoming more common. It might be mostly genetic, but scientists figure there's more than just genetics causing the increased number of kids with nearsightedness. For example, there's a strong association between more time spent outdoors and a lower risk of becoming nearsighted. The other main reason that doctors wanted to focus on myopia prevention or mitigation is that if you have really bad myopia, then you are at increased risk of having other eye problems as you age. There's an increased risk of developing cataracts, which is basically hardening and clouding of your lens. There's an increased risk of eyeball pressures being too high and then damaging the optic nerve. That's called glaucoma, as well as a higher risk of something called retinal detachment, where the retina on the back of your eyeball just peels off the eyeball. All of these things are treatable, but if we don't catch them early, they can lead to blindness in that eye. So for all of those reasons, the doctors wanted to at least reduce how bad myopia gets after it starts, so it doesn't keep getting worse as kids grow.
So how do they work to slow the progression of nearsightedness in their study?
Yeah, so in this study, they got 159 kids across 9 eye clinics in the U.S. who were diagnosed with myopia between the ages of 6 and 12 years old. And they randomly gave half the kids the standard treatment, which are glasses that focus the image exactly on their retina so they can see clearly. The other half, they gave them special glasses. They have a central zone where the image gets perfectly focused as usual. But then around that central zone, there are 11 concentric rings of what they called highly aspherical lenslets, basically special glass, that focus peripheral light just in front of the retina. And those special glasses, they were called HAL glasses, for highly aspherical lenslets. So the kids' vision was tracked for the next 2 years to see if it got worse and by how much. And they found that for the kids who got the regular glasses, their vision did get worse as usual. They got more nearsighted as they grew. For kids who got the special HAL glasses, their vision also got worse, but not nearly as bad as it did for the kids in the normal glasses group. About 70% less progression in their nearsightedness compared to the normal glasses kids. And when they measured the length of their eyeballs, the ones who had the special glasses didn't have as much lengthening of their eyeballs, about 53% less sort of sausaginess of their eyeball size compared to the normal glasses kids at 2 years.
So how would that work then? So why does focusing light in front of the retina slow down or change the growth of the eyeball?
Right, it seems kind of weird, but with normal lenses, the central image on the retina is super clear, but the peripheral light landing is usually focused just a tiny bit behind the retina. And the visual system can sense that, and it tries to catch that light and bring it into focus by growing the eyeball a tiny bit longer, which makes the central image out of focus again, which worsens the myopia. So there's a feedback loop that makes the nearsightedness worse and worse as the eyeball grows. So the idea is that the special glasses still focus the central image on the retina so that kids can see properly, but at the same time, the special lenses focus a bunch of light just in front of the retina rather than a tiny bit behind it. The eyeball's growth feedback mechanism can see that. It can sort of figure out that, oh, there's this blurry light right in front of my retina. I shouldn't grow my retina longer and further away from this. I should slow down the lengthening of the eyeball as it grows. So that's how they figure it's happening. The exact biological pathways are still under investigation.
So until this happens here, what should parents focus on to either prevent or treat their kids' nearsightedness?
Yeah, so the first and most important thing is to make sure to get your kids' vision checked every year. The start of a new school year, like right now, is a good time to do it, but really any time is good. Just get it rechecked every single year, right? Kids and their eyeballs grow and change year to year. And so if your little one is diagnosed with myopia, nearsightedness, then you can talk to your eye doctor about options for how do we make sure they don't get more nearsighted as they grow older. So one option is these lenses. There are other potential treatments. There's special contact lenses, special eye drops. Those generally aren't as easy as special glasses. When nearsighted kids, they need glasses anyway. But again, talk to your eye doctor about options. Second thing, get your kids outdoors, focusing on things far away. Sitting in the backyard staring at a screen doesn't do the same thing as being outdoors playing, looking into the distance. Studies have shown that nearsightedness slowed down in kids who spent about 2 hours a day outside. So that's a handy target to aim for. And then third, for everyone, for bonus points, not just kids, but when screen time is necessary, like, doing homework, being at the office, whatever, keep screens at arm's length if you can. So try not to hold your phone right up against your face. And think about the 20-20-20 rule. Every 20 minutes, look away from the screen and focus on something 20 feet away, so far away, like a tree out of a window or something, for at least 20 seconds in a row. That's not a bad idea for everybody to reduce eye strain. 20 minutes, look at something 20 feet away, 20 seconds.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Bhardwaj.
My pleasure.
That is our regular health and medicine contributor, Dr. Raj Bhardwaj.
Manitoba may have a reputation for being cold and flat, but our podcast isn't. I'm Marcy Marcusa, the warmest host on the prairies. Even with my podcast, This is Manitoba, is exploring some challenging issues. I'm never flat when it comes to holding our leaders to account. Some of those interviews have been called spicy. If you care about this province, check out This is Manitoba, with new episodes dropping every Wednesday.
Well, up next here on Information Radio, the Canada-U.S. trade fight continues to ratchet up. Now, yesterday, Ottawa announced dollar-for-dollar counter tariffs targeting almost $28 billion worth of U.S. goods. And Industry Minister Melanie Joly says the retaliation is intended to protect Canadian businesses. And
we're also targeting products that will target states in the U.S. And so we're being wise and strategic to put political pressure.
Now, for more on that pressure and how effective it might be, we've reached Matthew Lebo. He's a professor of political science at Western University. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what do Canada's choice of counter tariffs tell you about where and how Canada is applying this political pressure?
Well, there are midterm elections coming up in the United States. Currently, Republicans hold majorities in both the House and the Senate. And it looks pretty likely that Democrats are going to take the majority in November in the House, and then the Senate is really up for grabs. And the Senate will be decided in 6 states that look each like toss-ups now. Those are Alaska, Iowa, Maine, Michigan, Ohio, and Texas. So the tariffs are targeted at a couple of those states in particular. So about 1/3 of all of the products that are named are seafood, and that affects Maine a great deal. That's going to be a really close race. Republican Susan Collins has just barely scraped by in a state that votes for Democrats, usually voted for Kamala Harris in 2024. There's about $3 billion worth of new tariffs that are targeting products coming from Ohio, which is a reliably Republican state, but there's a popular Democrat, Sherrod Brown, who used to be a Democratic senator coming from that state. So if Democrats can win back the Senate, then there's a lot of pressure that can be put on Donald Trump. But even the threat of Democrats winning in those states should get a lot of Republicans, the candidates and then Republican leadership in the House and the Senate, to put pressure on Donald Trump to remove the tariffs and to remove the threats of new tariffs.
And there's some interesting results from a New York Times Siena poll from earlier this summer. So on July 1st, it found that more than 54% of likely voters, more than half, but 54% of likely voters object to Donald Trump's tariffs. And it goes up to almost 60%, 59% to be exact, in Maine. So which is expected to be a battleground state in November, as you mentioned. So how important could the trade issue be for voters in key border states?
Yeah, and the number one issue that Americans say they care about is the price of things and the cost of living. That's what Donald Trump ran on, promising to reduce prices. Inflation now is higher than it was when he took office. So, these tariffs will really give great product for Democrats to put into their job ads. And it will focus attention from the tariffs, call them taxes, get voters to pay attention to prices rising within those particular states. And so it's a really unpopular issue among all voters, and a lot of Republicans may get really discouraged. They may just stay home. It's definitely energizing a lot of Democrats who might give money to pay for more commercials and who definitely turn out. So this is just bad policy in an election season for Republicans. And I think that the Canadian counter tariffs are trying to take the most advantage of that they can.
And there are Republicans who actually oppose Trump's tariffs. Republican Senator, as you mentioned, Susan Collins of Maine, who's running for re-election, calls them a mistake. So how is the GOP going to sell the Trump tariffs on the campaign trail to voters who are concerned the economy, and the cost of living, who are concerned about those things?
It's a really tough sell. Donald Trump talks about tariffs as being a really powerful weapon. That his advisors all talk about, well, this is some short-term pain for long-term gain. In theory, the idea that this is somehow going to bring a lot of manufacturing jobs back to the United States, that's what they try and sell things on. But as prices go up and up, it's really tough. And you'll see some Republican candidates, including Susan Collins, try and distance themselves. Susan Collins has always tried to sell herself as an independent voice, but Democrats will be reminding Maine voters that 95% of the time she votes with Donald Trump, that you need Democrats in order to push back, that it's Congress's job to oversee taxes and tariffs, and Republican majorities are not doing that at all, and so that you need Democratic majorities. Susan Collins has a very long record of looking concerned about Donald Trump and then not doing anything to stop him. And so there's a lot of stuff that's going to make its way into campaign commercials, and I think Democrats are going to really take advantage.
And at least according to polling, there's a decent chance that Democrats actually take the House in November's midterm. So if Democrats do take control of one or both chambers in Congress, what could it mean for the trade war?
Well, Donald Trump would still be president, and he has taken a great deal of authority into the executive branch that the Constitution forbids him. So if Democrats controlled both houses of Congress, they could try to reassert their authority over tariffs. Donald Trump still would have the power of the veto. Any law that's passed by Democrats in Congress, he could try to veto that. But perhaps this gets so unpopular that Democrats and Republicans in Congress together can override that veto. Or Democrats can push their case with courts much more strongly than Republicans have, who haven't done it at all. And then as soon as the midterm elections are over, then it's all about the 2028 presidential election. And so you might see some really prominent Republicans who see how unpopular tariffs are, distancing themselves from Donald Trump, and the Republican Party perhaps are turning more to the free trade party that they used to be. And, maybe there will be an end in sight for this.
Well, Matthew, thanks for your time this morning. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Matthew Lebo is a professor of political science at Western University. Well, still to come here on Information Radio, your business report is just ahead, and tributes are pouring in for Dolly Parton, the singer. She's also being celebrated as a businesswoman. So we're going to actually talk about her business career on top, of course, her amazing musical career. Also, SpaceX plans to build the biggest launch site on Earth. We're going to hear where it's going to be going. That's coming up after your CBC News from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is 19 degrees. It's going to be a beautiful day. A little on the windy side, but we will see lots of sunshine and a high today of 24. Canada's counter tariffs could mean higher charges for a company that imports electronics from the U.S. Ray Solar is based in Winnipeg and Kenora. Owner Reynold Pambrun says he is preparing to pay an additional 25% for parts he needs. He expects these retaliatory measures to be slapped on certain components he gets from the U.S. for his solar systems. Pambrun says Canada's countermeasures will hurt him more than the tariffs imposed by the Trump administration.
The tariffs themselves, our exports roughly are about 20%. Most of them are pretty isolated, but it's the countermeasures on the dollar for dollar, say on electronic equipment, where that's where it's going to cost us more.
Pambrun worries about the impact the trade war will have on small businesses like his. Canada introduced $7.5 billion in relief for industries, which Pambrun says may help a bit. Some business owners don't think counter tariffs are the way to go. Barry Wiebe owns Wiebe's Steel Structures in Morden. Their products can be found in manufacturing and in agriculture, as well as in grocery stores.
They should be working with the U.S. I mean, they've always been a good neighbor. I know we got a strong leader in the South, and I think I don't think it's going to work well for us, but that's my opinion. I think we need to work with them and go for the long-term game.
Weave says the counter tariffs on U.S. steel will have to be passed down to his customers. Premier Wab Kinew says help is coming for impacted businesses, although details have not yet been released. Winnipeg police are adding an AI translation tool to body-worn cameras being tested by officers. The new feature will allow officers to communicate with people in more than 50 languages. CBC's Karen Pauls reports.
Translate to Spanish.
In this promotional video, the AI program recognizes a language, translates it into English, and then translates the officer's response back.
Speak like normal, okay? I will Uber.
Winnipeg Police Deputy Chief George Labossiere says it will allow people the opportunity to express themselves in their first language.
When you're dealing with an emergency situation, the emotions are high. It might be difficult to articulate what you want to say. To let them say it in their native tongue is so much easier. And I think
about 40 officers are currently using body-worn cameras, and they're being trained on the new translation program. Police hope to launch it by Friday. The video gathered by the cameras is stored on a cloud, and Labossiere says the service is taking steps to protect that data. The technology already includes AI that automatically redacts or blurs sensitive information it might pick up when recording cell phones, computers, and tablets. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The leadership of SCO Grand Chief Jerry Daniels is being called into question. A copy of a motion obtained by CBC News calls on the Southern Chiefs organization to hold an emergency summit to consider Daniels' future. The motion was put forward by Lake Manitoba First Nation Chief Cornell McLean. McLean says one of the issues he has is a lack of transparency on the organization's projects.
For the big projects that are going, nobody knows about what's happening besides the board members and the Grand Chief. Other chiefs don't know what's happening. So, why not be open and transparent to us and instead of showing it on Facebook?
In a statement to CBC News, the Southern Chief says it has recommended these concerns be addressed at its next regular summit in the fall. The organization says it is committed to transparency and respects the rights of all chiefs to raise concerns and ask questions. A fire at a hospital in Pakistan's capital, Islamabad, has killed 14 newborn babies. It happened in the maternity ward at a major government facility. One baby was rescued. Officials say the compressor of an air conditioning unit likely exploded inside the nursery, triggering the fire. Some of the families affected have complained about a slow response by rescue workers and poor safety regulations.
I wasn't even able to see my daughter, but the condition of the ward is bad. I've been going there for 8 days. The situation was absurd. My wife is in this building and is in much better condition. That building has no fire security, no proper exits. All doors were closed. Only one door was for us to visit our children. They kept the other doors locked because they feared we would come to see our children too often.
Pakistan's Prime Minister has called for an immediate investigation. You can hear more national and international news on World Report at 7. Some fresh produce from the United States is reaching kitchen tables in Manitoba, but not through a grocery store. Harvest Manitoba says fruit and vegetables grown in the U.S. are being left on store shelves here as the trade war escalates. President and CEO Vince Barletta says they're making sure less of that food goes to waste.
We work with retailers of all sizes to secure that produce through our warehouse and distribute it through our food bank network. So we have been seeing, even in recent days, an uptick in that, and we'll see how that fleshes itself out in the weeks ahead.
Barletta says more than 50,000 pounds of food moves in and out of their facilities every day. You can find more news updated throughout your day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That's Heather Wells at your CBC News Desk. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio One. I'm Corey Funk in for Marcy Marcusa. And Abby Adiemi is in now with a look at your weather. Hi.
Hi, Corey. It's going to be a beautiful day across other regions today. I'm talking about bright and sunny stats for most of the regions down south with warm temperatures in the mid-20s. That's what we're we're seeing. While for the northern regions, we might still see a few passing clouds and, of course, some scattered showers in the forecast for the north. But here in the Red River Valley region, Winnipeg, we're starting the day 19 at the Forks. Temperatures close to 16, 17 around the airport area. We're expecting mainly sunny skies. Already seeing the sunrise happening out there. We will notice breezy conditions from the northwest later as we get towards the afternoon period where we warm to about 24 degrees. The humidity is just going to be on the mild side. And for the other regions in the southern areas, we're going to see temperatures between 12 and 17. For the Brandon area, we're noticing this early morning mist, which should be clearing in the Westman region later. But in summary, we're going to see sunny skies that will dominate the Pembina Valley region. We're seeing temperatures around 17 there. The Westman, most of the regions around Brandon towards Nipper, we're seeing 11. In the Parkland area, Dauphin towards the Riding Mountain area, we're looking at 12 there. While for the Interlake region, Gimli and surrounding areas, we're seeing 15 with breezy conditions from the northwest. Highs for those regions close to 25 today. Then we track into the north central and, of course, the far north this morning where we're seeing temperatures between 10 and 14 degrees. We're tracking 14 around the Par, 11 around the Flin Flon area, 14 for Norway House, and of course sunny skies for all these three regions. We'll see highs near 23 degrees. Then you go further now, Thompson, we're looking at temperatures around 11 at this time. Gillam is at 13, Tudula Lake at 10, and of course Churchill, we're tracking 10 degrees there. All these regions will see a mix of sun and clouds with a slim chance of showers, and of course in the Thompson and Churchill area there's a good chance of afternoon showers for the Gillam Tudula Lake area later, with highs close to 12 degrees in Churchill and 21 for the Thompson area. So overall, southern Manitoba is going to enjoy sunny conditions and highs close to 24, 25 degrees. Right now, Winnipeg, we're looking at 19. We warm to 24 later.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
Sierra Sanders is in now with a look at your commute. Hi.
Hi, Corey. Pretty quiet out there. Haven't received any calls on the commuter line so far. So to me, it sounds like things are moving along just fine at the moment. But if that changes here, I would love to hear from you no matter where you are, no matter how you're getting around. You can give me a call on that CBC commuter line. That number's 204-788-3093.
Thank you very much, Sierra. Well, Neil Herland is here now with the Business Report. Hi.
Good morning, Corey.
So Canada's new counter tariffs will take effect in 2 weeks from now. What's the reaction?
Well, reaction to the new tariff list is quite mixed. Some provinces are supportive. In fact, most are generally supportive. Alberta is actually calling for a return to the negotiating table, but some industries, especially the forestry sector in BC, are worried. As we've been reporting, Canada will tariff $27.6 billion worth of American goods with tariffs of 15, 25, or 50% on a range of products. It all starts the day after Labor Day on September 8th. The list includes seafood, paper products, furniture, clothing, tools, even motorcycles. And to help cushion the blow for Canadians, the federal government will also spend $7.5 billion to support workers and businesses. Now, Canada's largest private sector union, Unifor, says it welcomes the federal support for Canadian workers, but adds that the measures unveiled by Ottawa still fall short of what's needed by failing to address gaps in the EI system. It wants the government to lower qualifying hours for part-time and seasonal workers. Canada's major banks are shielded from direct tariff costs, but they could face loan defaults from customers and businesses. The heads of BMO and Scotia say the risks are manageable. And finally, the White House issued a response saying Canada chose unreasonable demands, walkbacks, and flat-out rejection during the negotiations.
Pivoting now to SpaceX, which plans to build the biggest launch site on Earth. Where's it going?
Yeah, so it's going along the southern coast of Louisiana. SpaceX, the company that Elon Musk founded, has just announced it will spend $100 billion to construct a massive spaceport. They're calling it Starbase Louisiana. I can just hear Captain Picard saying the name out loud. It will be used to launch the massive Starship rockets, which will send up Starlink satellites and those planned missions to the moon and Mars. SpaceX currently operates 4 main launch facilities across the U.S., 2 in Florida, 1 in California, and the other one in Texas. This new 5th location offers access to an abundant supply of natural gas, which is the fuel that the Starship rockets use. And being on the southern Gulf Coast gives them a safe path to launch directly over open water. Construction begins next year, and the first launches are expected in 2029. This project could make Louisiana a major hub for the space industry, transforming the state's economy.
And finally here, tributes are pouring in for Dolly Parton, the singer, but she's also being celebrated as a businesswoman. Why is that?
Yeah, Dolly Parton, of course, died yesterday at the age of 80, and besides her incredible music, she also was a savvy entrepreneur, blazing a trail for other women like Martha Stewart and Beyoncé by turning her name into a big corporate business brand. In 1966, when her contract with Combine Music expired, she founded her own publishing company with her uncle and manager Bill Owens. It was a pivotal decision, allowing her to retain the publishing rights to her songwriting catalog early in her career, giving her creative control and also earning royalties directly. That was incredibly rare for singers, especially women at the time. In 1974, she famously refused to sell or hand over the publishing rights for I Will Always Love You to Elvis Presley's manager. She also co-owned Dollywood, her theme park in Tennessee, and she founded Sand Dollar Productions, the company behind the movie 9 to 5 and the TV series Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Throw in Dolly-themed merchandise and licensing, and her estate is now estimated at $650 million. And there are still projects in the works. For example, a biographical Broadway musical opens in New York on January 19th, and tickets are already selling pretty strongly.
Wow. Well, thank you very much for that, Neil.
You're welcome, Corey.
That's Neil Herland with your business news. Well, let's keep talking about Dolly Parton. The music icon and philanthropist died yesterday at the age of 80, and her death was confirmed by her family in a statement. Now, here's a bit of her biography. Dolly Rebecca Parton was born on the banks of the Little Pigeon River in Tennessee's Great Smoky Mountains in 1946. She was the fourth of 12 children, and Parton grew up inside a 2-room cabin with a family whose musical roots went back generations. And over the course of her career, she composed more than 3,000 songs and sold more than 100 million records worldwide. Now, in an interview with CBC Q host Tom Power in 2020, Parton reminisced about her early start to songwriting.
When you were just about 5 or 6 years old, you started writing songs. Then you get serious about writing songs when you're around 7. I mean, how serious can you be, and how serious were you about writing songs when you were 7 years old?
Well, I got pretty serious because, well, my mother's people were all very musical. Everybody played musical instruments, and we were always singing and playing. And anytime anybody would come through, I'd make them show me chords on the guitar. And I would hear my mom and my aunts and all the women sitting around, or just people just talking about people that had been in the war, killed in the war, or somebody's son got murdered up at the sawmill, or I would just hear all these stories. So I knew all these stories, and I absorbed everything. So it was easy for me to write.
We've gone to bed hungry many nights in the past, in the good old days, when times were bad. No amount of money could buy from me the memories I have of them. No amount of money could pay me to go back and live through it again.
I had the gift of rhyme early on, and then when I learned to play that little guitar, my heart was always heavy, and hearing all these songs. So that was kind of how I kind of channeled all those feelings, even whether they were happy or whether they were sad. I started doing it really early on, so it was easy for me to gather up information and inspiration from other people's lives. And I have a sister and 2 brothers older, and there's 8 kids younger, so I was kind of one of those kids that needed attention, and I wasn't going to get any extra unless I was going to get my butt busted or was in trouble or needing to do something. So, but I just kind of lived with my music. I lived in my little guitar, and I just created my own little world. And Mama, she would be fascinated with the songs that I would write, and she would, when people would come to our house, Mom would say, "Run and get your guitar," and then she'd say to them, "I want you to hear this song this little thing wrote," you know. And so I thought, I'm getting all this attention and I'm doing something special. So that kind of just encouraged me. And so, you know, you don't know what's going to inspire you or encourage you, but I realized I was getting attention doing it, and I loved doing it, so it just became my thing.
What a lady. That was country music icon Dolly Parton speaking with CBC Q host Tom Power back in 2020. She died yesterday at the age of 80. Q will actually be revisiting that interview on their show today, so you can tune in at 10 a.m. right here on CBC Radio One or on the CBC Listen app. Now, of course, we've got to play a little bit of Dolly Parton here. Here she is now with I Will Always Love You.
If I should stay, I would only be in your way, so I'll go. But I know I'll think of you each step of the way. Bittersweet memories, that's all I am taking with me. Goodbye, please don't cry. We both know that I'm not what you need. Treat you kind, and I hope that you have all that you ever dreamed of, and I wish you joy and happiness, but above all of this, I wish you love.
That's the late, great icon Dolly Parton with I Will Always Love You. And the song was originally written and composed by Parton in 1974 and, of course, later became a mega hit when Whitney Houston covered it in 1992. And we want to hear from you. What did Dolly Parton mean to you? Do you have any stories? Did you ever get to meet her? Did you go to a concert? Do you have a special experience there? Give us a call. Share your stories about Dolly Parton. Is there a song that played a particular role in your life? I'm sure a lot of people have stories about a role Dolly Parton's song, music played in their life. You can give us a call, 204-788-3205. That's 204-788-3205.
I'm Jura McElwraith, your local reporter for CBC Manitoba in Steinbach. You're listening to CBC Radio One.
Well, 6:50 right now. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio One, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on the CBC Manitoba YouTube page. Well, next up here on the show, when most of us open up our favorite streaming service, we don't think a lot about how they choose which shows to feature on the front page and in search results. But those algorithms have emerged as a battleground in the trade war between Canada and the U.S. Now, the Globe and Mail is reporting that U.S. negotiators demanded looser rules for how Canadian content is organized on online streaming services, and Canada refused. Industry Minister Melanie Joly spoke to reporters about the issue yesterday.
It's a question of protecting the workers in the cultural sector. And that is up to 900,000 people working in our creative industries, from film production to museums, etc. We need to be able, as a country, to have cultural policies to protect these workers.
Well, Anya Karadeglia is a tech policy reporter with the Canadian Press, and she's been following this story, and she joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what do we know about the changes to Canadian content laws the U.S. might have been asking for in trade talks?
So we don't have the exact details. The Prime Minister has said the issue was discoverability. So that's this idea that when you go onto a streaming service like Netflix, you kind of see options that include Canadian content or French language content. So the U.S. has said that wasn't the issue. French language was not a problem. They say the issue was financial contributions that streamers have to make. But the government in Canada has already backtracked on that, which kind of leads to the question of whether the United States just wanted the Online Streaming Act gone entirely, and we haven't gotten confirmation on that one way or another.
So we've heard a bunch of the Canadian side. What does the U.S. say about how the issue played out in trade talks?
So the United States Trade Representative said that their issue was this idea of requiring streamers to pay 15% of revenues, or 5%, and then it was increased to 15% towards Canadian content production funds or towards making Canadian content. But the U.S. had already identified the legislation as a trade irritant, and it's really because this law is meant to update our existing Canadian content rules for the streaming age. And most of the big streamers are American. So in the U.S. perspective, that makes it a law that discriminates against U.S. companies.
And the Online Streaming Act was controversial even before the latest trading dispute. So what were the issues, before this, leading up to this point?
So it's really those two issues. The U.S. kind of broadly saying that it targets U.S. companies. And then the streamers also opposing this idea of having to pay into Canadian content. So the CRTC initially put forward a 5% requirement that services like Netflix have to pay 5% of Canadian revenues towards CanCon. And a number of streamers pretty immediately launched a legal challenge of that. So that's actually still playing out in the courts.
Also, Quebec has its own law about discoverability on streaming services. So why do French language programs need their own set of rules?
So, obviously promoting Quebec content, French language content is just extremely important in Quebec, politically, socially, culturally. So the government there put forward its own law and passed it in 2025. Now, the law is on the books, but the rules are not in place. Kind of the regulations and specific rules still have to be developed. And there is a question of what will happen with that law once that happens, because broadcasting is pretty clearly federal jurisdiction, which is why it's the CRTC that's always been in charge of these things.
Clearly the culture, Canadian culture, sovereignty is a big central reason here behind this. But as we heard from Minister Joly, there 900,000 jobs are related to the cultural sector here in Canada. So just how significant are industries like film and TV to Canada's overall economy?
So aside from the numbers that Minister Joly cited, specifically TV and film production is worth about $12 billion in Canada and employs about 180,000 people. That's according to an industry group that represents independent producers. People who support it always point to the cultural impact that it has, but obviously there is a significant economic impact as well.
So, with all this talk now about streaming services and the importance of it to Canadian sovereignty and culture. How do you think this ongoing threat from the U.S. will boost public support for Canadian-made media?
I mean, if we're seeing, increased support for supporting Canadian companies, for Canadian products and services, there's no reason to think that wouldn't extend to media in streaming. But I kind of suspect that even there's people who might not support the idea of having Canadian content rules or having Canadian content contributions might kind of get their back up at the idea of the U.S. coming in as part of a trade deal and telling us we're not allowed to decide to have them.
Well, Anya, thanks for your time this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Anya Karadeglia is a tech policy reporter with the Canadian Press. Well, 6:56 right now in Winnipeg. We are sitting at 19, warming up today to 24. You could expect it to be mainly sunny, dipping down to 11 overnight, then 24 again tomorrow with so far looks like a pretty lovely weekend ahead and a very similar forecast pretty much right across southern Manitoba as well. And still to come here on Information Radio this next hour on the show, why aren't more women signing up to run for city politics? Well, we're going to talk to a political science professor who says it isn't because they don't want to. We're going to find out those reasons. Also, we're going to continue talking about the fallout from this trade war and what Canadians have been stepping up to do about it. A Brandon man who created an app to help Canadians find locally made products says the app has been so popular that other countries reached out to try and follow suit and also support Canada. So he's going to join us on air to talk about that particular app. And also this next hour, it's been closed since 2020, but Winnipeg's Revolving Restaurant has a new tenant. And we're going to speak to the man who plans to open up a brand new fusion spot there very, very soon. So those conversations coming up this next hour on Information Radio. But right now, though, at 6:57, let's check in with Heather Wells with a look at news headlines.
Good morning. Well, some business owners in Manitoba don't think counter tariffs are the way to go. Canada's counter tariffs on the United States target steel and aluminum, among other products. Barry Weeb owns Weeb Steel Structures in Morden. He says the U.S. has always been a good neighbor and has a strong leader. He doesn't think counter tariffs will work. Winnipeg police are adding an AI translation tool to body-worn cameras being tested by officers.
Language set to Russian.
Deputy Chief George Labossiere says the program has more than 50 languages in its database and will allow officers to interact with the public in the language of their choice. We'll hear all about it in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That's Heather Wells at your CBC News Desk. So far, pretty quiet commute out there. We haven't heard any major issues yet, but you can always give Sierra a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093. And also, lots more Dolly conversations to come up. Of course, the iconic singer Dolly Parton died at the age of 80. And we're actually going to talk, stay tuned after 8 o'clock, because we're actually going to be speaking with a Manitoban woman who actually used to work for her charity in Tennessee and helped bring books, get books shipped to First Nations across Manitoba. She met Dolly in person, so we're going to hear from her coming up after 8. I'm Corey Funk, in for Marcy Marcusa. We'll be back after World Report. Stay tuned.
Confused. I'm Susan Ormiston. Baby puffins, or pufflings as they're called, are leaving their nests for the first time and heading out to sea. But artificial lights can send them off track. How the Puffin Patrol is steering them right, coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Martina Fitzgerald. In Nepal, a rescue chopper hovers above the valleys of Nepal's northern Rasua district. There is no safe place to land after floodwaters washed away entire villages. At least 9 people are dead, hundreds of others are missing, among them 291 foreign nationals. The local tourism board has so far confirmed that U.S., South Korean, British, Australian, and Indian citizens are among those unaccounted for. Officials say an avalanche of ice and rock triggered massive flash flooding, with debris sweeping through river valleys in the Himalayan region. A warning to our listeners that the details of this next story are disturbing. In Pakistan, at least 14 newborns have been killed in a fire early this morning inside a hospital nursery. The CBC's Willie Lowry has the latest.
3 women console each other on the sidewalk outside the Pakistan Institute for Medical Sciences. Yellow caution tape cordons off the entrance to the maternity ward of Islamabad's largest hospital. A fire ripped through the ward early this morning, leaving several newborn babies dead. A woman who survived the fire is accusing hospital staff of abandoning their duties.
At around 6 a.m., the fire erupted, but the staff and doctors did not inform us about this. Rather, they fled the scene and saved their own lives. There was a lady who screamed and informed us. When I went upstairs, the fire was spread so much that it reached our room. Then I first rescued my nephew, then I evacuated my sister-in-law.
Pakistan's Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif has called for an immediate investigation. In a statement on social media, his office said, quote, "Those responsible should be identified and the strictest action should be taken." A father of one of the victims said the ward lacked basic safety measures.
I wasn't even able to see my daughter, but the condition of the ward is bad. I've been going there for 8 days. The situation was absurd. My wife is in this building and is in much better condition. That building has no fire security, no proper exits. All doors were closed. Only one door was for us to visit our children. They kept the other doors locked because they feared we would come to see our children too often.
Reports suggest that the fire may have started after the compressor inside an air conditioning unit exploded. Willie Lowry, CBC News, London.
In Russia, hundreds of workers run away from a natural gas plant to escape a fire. 7 people, including 6 Chinese nationals, are dead. The plant is a joint project of a Russian petrochemical company and a Chinese oil and gas company. 9 Chinese workers are reported missing. More than 100 people were treated for injuries. It's not yet clear what caused the fire. In just under 2 weeks, Canada's counter tariffs against the U.S. will go into effect. Nearly 900 U.S. products will be hit with billions of dollars in retaliatory tariffs. This growing trade war between Canada and the U.S. could hit some states harder than others. Ohio, a red state, is one of them. Its relationships in the steel and manufacturing sectors deeply intertwine with Canada. And as the CBC's Katie Nicholson reports from Ohio, some there are wondering if this tariff tiff could swing the state blue in the coming midterms.
As players shake hands against a pink sunset on a Youngstown, Ohio baseball diamond, Patricia Vandervoort and her friend Pam Hall are thinking about a very different game being played with much higher stakes.
We don't want Canada to hold it against us citizens. It's not us.
Yeah, it's not us. We don't like them any more than you do.
The women aghast at the escalating trade war between Canada and the U.S. that will likely impact Youngstown, once the heart of America's steel country.
Everything's going to be more expensive.
And it'll affect our factories. People will lose their jobs.
Canada is Ohio's biggest customer, consuming 1/3 of its exports. Many about to become more expensive as Canadian counter tariffs kick in, which could carry political ramifications, says Larry Kelly, leaning against a van in a parking lot with his teammates.
I think it's going to have a dramatic effect on the midterms.
You always have a midterm swing. This could cause the pendulum to swing a little bit more.
Guy Caviello is the president of Youngstown's regional chamber. While he says the data shows that the tariff war is doing more damage than good, some businesses have reaped benefits.
Sometimes in those meetings, I've got a chamber member that is trying to argue against tariffs sitting across the table from a chamber member that's embracing the tariffs.
Whether that embrace leads to Republicans retaining seats, a question that will be answered in 10 short weeks. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Youngstown, Ohio.
Despite the worsening trade dispute, Americans are still visiting Canada, and that's good news for the Canadian provinces that depend on tourism to drive their economy. The CBC's Sabrina Fabian is in Halifax, seeing if this trade-related friction is being felt there.
The cruise ship, the Norwegian Jewel, slowly makes its way out of the Halifax harbor with hundreds of American tourists on board. With local souvenirs tucked in their luggage and warm lobster in their bellies, they're among the millions of Americans who travel to Canada every year. People like Christy Kenny Nottigan.
We love Canada. I mean, it's an important relationship, and I think it's in everyone's best interest to keep it as an important allyship.
But some are aware that U.S. President Donald Trump's policies aren't popular here, like Dawn Gardenhire.
I kind of feel embarrassed, and I feel like they have every right to look at us distastefully.
But that's not what's happening, says her husband, Richard.
People are very welcoming, despite the behaviors and decision that our current administration has made.
Americans contributed more than $17 billion to the Canadian economy last year. Businesses such as Ambassador's Grey Line, which run tours like the ever-popular Harbor Hopper.
Yeah, let's keep it going for Captain Curtis, everyone.
Peter McLaughlin is the revenue manager.
They're really crucial to ensuring that we're able to provide employment for as many people as possible for as long as possible.
Cruise ship traffic from Americans isn't slowing down, says Robin Stewart with the Port of Halifax.
We haven't really heard anything other than the doors are still open.
In fact, the busy season is just about to kick off. Sabrina Fabian, CBC News, Halifax.
Less than 20 kilometers from Newfoundland and Labrador, climate change is forcing the residents of a French island to move. For years, rising sea levels and frequent storms have been a threat to the residents of Saint-Pierre and Miquelon. As Mark Quinn reports, locals are now hoping to relocate one of its towns completely.
Most of Miquelon's 600 residents live on an isthmus of sand and stones, only 2 meters above sea level. They're witnessing erosion caused by more frequent and more violent storms. Miquelon's mayor, Franck Detcheverry, says relocating is expected to cost more than 300 million Canadian dollars. The community will rely on a French fund for properties threatened by natural disasters and climate change. He believes if the community asks for the money little by little, it's more likely to get it. So far, 9 homes are under construction. Mayor Detcheverry says it's impossible to say just how long it will take to build about 300 homes and public buildings. French President Emmanuel Macron is scheduled to visit Saint-Pierre-et-Miquelon in September. The town hopes he'll announce more money for its massive relocation project. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Fans and fellow musicians are sharing their tributes to and memories of Dolly Parton. The country music legend, actor, and philanthropist has died at age 80 after a brief battle with cancer. Steve Futterman reports.
Throughout the world, her voice is reverberating.
Jolene, Jolene, Jolene.
Yesterday, here in Los Angeles, flowers were placed on Dolly Parton's star on the Hollywood Boulevard Walk of Fame. Fans came to remember.
Life is not always about sorrow, it's about celebration.
Some got emotional.
She was my icon, so it's hard to see an icon go.
In death yesterday, Dolly Parton did something very rare in 2026. She brought a bit of unity. Donald Trump paid tribute to her, so did New York Mayor Zoran Mamdani. What was it that made Dolly Parton so great? The talent, of course, the beautiful, distinctive soprano, the honesty of her lyrics. In so many ways, Dolly Parton was a larger-than-life figure. Today, millions of fans are making it clear they will always love her. Steve Futterman, CBC News, Los Angeles.
Could be in my coat of many colors my mama made for me.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Martina Fitzgerald. This is CBC News.
And holes in both my shoes in my coat of many colors.
You'd expect us to talk lots about Dolly coming up on the show after 8. Also, we'll get some more music of her on the show as well. Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Corey Funk, in for Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio on 89.3 at CBC Radio One. Coming up this hour on the show, a Manitoba man had a desire to connect people to Canadian-made products, so he made an app during the first round of U.S. tariffs last year, and it was so popular that it maxed out his servers, but he's ready for round 2. The founder of CanMade is going to join us later this hour. Also, Winnipeg's iconic revolving restaurant has sat empty since 2020, but a local restaurateur is planning to revive it. He's going to join us live at 7:40 to talk about his plans. But up first here on the show, why aren't more women signing up to run for city politics? Well, our next guest says it isn't because they don't want to. We're going to find out the reasons coming up right here on Information Radio. Stay tuned. 7:11 right now. Let's check in with Heather Wells with a look at news headlines.
Good morning. Well, the owner of a company that sets up solar systems is bracing for the impact of Canadian counter tariffs on some electronics he imports from the U.S. That's one of the areas Canada is hitting back with a 25% tariff. Reynold Pambrun runs Ray Solar out of Winnipeg and Kenora, and some of the components for its solar systems come from the U.S. He says relief measures unveiled by Ottawa yesterday will help a bit. We'll hear more from him. The leadership of SCO Grand Chief Jerry Daniels is being called into question. A copy of a motion obtained by CBC News calls on the Southern Chiefs organization to hold an emergency summit to consider Daniels' future. We'll have some details on that in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That's Heather Wells at your CBC News desk. Abby Adeyemi is in now with a look at your weather. Hi.
Beautiful midweek ahead for southern Manitoba under mostly sunny skies, while the north will see a mix of sun and clouds with scattered rain showers and a risk of, some thunderstorms along the bay. But here in the city, we're starting the day 18 degrees at the Forks, 15 at the airports, just a few clouds, sunny outside. Expect sunny skies today with breezy northwest winds, and we warm up to 24 later. The humidity just about 27 degrees. That's how it's going to feel later in the day. But across the southern regions, we will see temperatures between 10 and 16 from the Pembina Valley region all the way to the Interlake region this morning, with highs near 25. Up north, we're talking about those passing clouds and a few showers near Thompson and the Churchill area. But Winnipeg, we're looking at 18 at the Forks, 15 at the airport, and 24 the high for today.
Thank you very much, Abby. Sierra Sanders is in now with a look at your commute. Hello.
Hi, Corey. Still pretty quiet out there on the commute this morning. Things are moving along pretty smoothly in this late summer. The late summer, I guess we should call it, just before we head into September next week. But if there's something you want to let me know about, a new situation or a backup, I'd love to hear from you, no matter where you are here in the province or however you are getting around. You can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number's 204-788-3093.
Well, up next on the show, as we reported yesterday, of the 11 candidates registered to run for mayor of Winnipeg, all of them so far are men. Susan Thompson, Winnipeg's first ever and only female mayor, wants to see that change.
I didn't think that because I was a woman, it should have been an issue. But it turned out to be an issue, and apparently still is. And the fact that our city is over 150 years old, and I'm still the only woman to have become mayor. So we have to change that.
Now, if you're wondering, there is still time for candidates to register. The deadline is September 22nd, but the current list raises the question, why aren't more women running for civic politics? Kelly Saunders is a professor and chair of Brandon University's Political Science Department. She joins us now. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
So are you surprised at all by the fact that no women are currently running for mayor of Winnipeg?
I'm not surprised. I'm disappointed, obviously. I would like to see women. We make up half the population in this country and in this province and in this city. So I would certainly like to see more representation of women, but I must say I'm not surprised.
How does this compare to provincial and federal levels in terms of representation and women running? Is it similar?
Well, it's pretty much the same when we look at the sort of the overall general numbers. Women make up about a third of all elected positions, whether that be at the municipal level, provincial level, or at the federal level in the House of Commons. So we're at about a third. But as I said, we make up just slightly over 50% of the population. So we are underrepresented.
And is there also a divide between like bigger cities and smaller cities like Brandon or rural areas as well? Is it a similar problem in terms of lack of women being represented in politics?
The issues tend to be the same. So, there could be some slight individual variations if we're looking at a particular city or maybe a particular municipality in a rural area. But really, the issues, the barriers that really discourage women from running and make it a little bit more difficult for women to run compared to men, those issues are the same no matter what situation we're talking about.
And let's talk about those barriers. Why aren't there more women choosing to run for political positions? What's standing in the way?
Yeah, people often make the assumption, and it's an understandable assumption that if we don't see women's names on a ballot, or if we don't see women actually holding elected office, that means women aren't interested in politics, that they're preoccupied or busy with other things, and it's just, if you're interested, then you're going to run and you're going to be successful. But that's not really a fair assumption. I mean, I can say that in my political science classes, for example, the majority of students that I have that are getting poli-sci degrees, even when we look at law schools now, the number of women that are getting law degrees, most of those people are women. I mean, women are incredibly interested in politics, and it makes sense. I mean, we are the ones in many cases that see the immediate impacts of political decisions, of public policies. We're the caregivers for our families, for our communities. We have upfront knowledge of the education system, of the healthcare system, of social services, whether garbage is being picked up on a regular basis. So it's not that women aren't interested. It's, as I said, the fact that there are larger structural systemic barriers that make it that much harder for us to run and to be successful at running.
So when we asked Susan Thompson about some of the struggles women in politics face, here's what she had to say.
In the past, it used to be about the criticism, etc. But with social media these days, everybody is facing those challenges. I think particularly for women, they want to be able to get in and accomplish something. When I first went into politics, I was told, "Oh, Susan, it's a blood sport." And I went, "Oh, gee, come on. I'm not interested in a blood sport." So I worked very hard at sticking to the issues and the goals and the objectives. And I didn't think I did, because I wouldn't allow bad behavior. I simply wouldn't allow it.
So you think it's that simple? Then is it a matter of simply focusing on the issues, goals, objectives, and not allowing that quote unquote bad behavior?
Well, I wish it were that easy. I mean, Susan Thompson is absolutely right in the sense that everybody is impacted by the negativity, by the trolling, by the nastiness that we see on social media that is targeted at all politicians. But the evidence is also really clear as well that for women, for people of color, that negativity, that trolling is that much more worse. So, I mean, you talk to any woman politician and she will tell you, that I've received death threats. I'm constantly barraged on my social media feeds with negativity. We've seen even MLAs, cabinet ministers in Winnipeg who've had their constituency offices burned and torched and attacked. So that social media is certainly a really, really big issue. And as I said, it's particularly impactful when we talk about women. And a major reason why a lot of women say, you know what, if I could just get in and focus on the issues and getting things done, that would be awesome. And I would put my name on the ballot. But in order to do that, I have to subject myself, my family, my friends, my loved ones to a constant stream of negativity and personal attack. And I'm just not willing to do that.
Are there any other jurisdictions you're aware of that do it well, where there is good representation of women in politics and they do have a better experience, as a politician?
Yeah. And I mean, the problem when we look at those numbers is that it tends to be one step forward, two steps back, so we do see provinces that have had women premiers, including our own here in Manitoba, and municipalities that have had higher rates of women at one particular moment in time. But then the next election, then those numbers recede a bit. So overall, we are making those slow gains. As I said, we're at about 30% now. When I started teaching, political science and teaching gender and politics 25 years ago, those numbers were less than 20%. So we are seeing more and more. And but again, those structural issues, I think, are the things that are the biggest barriers. And those barriers are everywhere. It's not just Winnipeg's an outlier or Manitoba is doing something better or worse than other provinces. Those structural barriers are everywhere.
So what could we change, at the municipal level, provincial level, to, achieve gender parity in local politics?
Absolutely. That's the million-dollar question, right? I mean, I would like to say that there's one magic bullet. We bring in quotas, or we have a big public education system where we really try to actively recruit women and encourage them to want to run. Those are certainly things I think we should be talking about. Conversations like this, I think, are very, very helpful. But, the larger issue is we need to look at why is politics such an uncomfortable, uninviting place for so many people, whether it be women, gender minorities, young people, people of color. And I think it has to do with just, again, a lot of the nastiness, the negativity, the vitriol that we see, not only online, but in political spaces. I mean, you just have to, log into question period on any given day, whether it's the Manitoba legislature or the House of Commons in Ottawa. And you see the ways in which political parties and politicians kind of feed into that negativity. It's not a really welcoming, comfortable space. And I think until we really address the larger problems in our political system and beginning with that negativity that is just so off-putting for so many people, that it's gonna remain a pretty exclusive place where a lot of people just don't feel welcome.
Well, Kelly, thank you so much for your time this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Kelly Saunders is a professor and chair of Brandon University's Political Science Department. Well, 7:22 right now, and as you've been hearing in the news all over the place, Dolly Parton, the late great Dolly Parton, died at the age of 80. And she was a trailblazer, not necessarily in politics. She wasn't actually a terribly political person herself, but a huge trailblazer in the music and business world. And this next song by her is a bit of an anthem, I think, for a lot of working women. Here she is now with 9 to 5 on CBC Radio One.
Tumble out of bed and I stumble to the kitchen, pour myself a cup of ambition and yawn and stretch and try to come to life. Jump in the shower and the blood starts pumping. Out on the streets the traffic starts jumping with folks like me on the job from 9 to 5. Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living, barely getting by. It's all taking and no giving. They just use your mind and they never give you credit. It's enough to drive you crazy if you let it. 9 to 5 for service and devotion. You would think that I would deserve a fair promotion. Want to move ahead, but the boss won't seem to let me. I swear sometimes that man is out to get me. They let you dream just to watch him shatter. You're just a step on the boss man's ladder, but you got dreams he'll never take away. On the same boat with a lot of your friends, waiting for the day your ship will come in and the tide's gonna turn and it's all gonna roll your way. Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living, barely getting by. It's all taking and no giving. They just use your mind and you never get the credit. It's enough to drive you crazy if you let it. 9 to 5, yeah, they got you where they want you. There's a better life and you think about it, don't you? It's a rich man's game, no matter what they call it, and you spend your life putting money in his wallet. 9 to 5, what a way to make a living, barely getting by. It's all taking and no giving. They just use your mind and they never give you credit. It's enough to drive you crazy if you let it. 9 to 5, yeah, they got you where they want you. There's a better life.
That, of course, is Dolly Parton. We're spending a lot of time this morning remembering her. She died at the age of 80. And coming up after 8 o'clock, we're going to have a conversation with a Manitoba woman who worked actually for her charity in Tennessee and helped bring books up to lots of Manitoba First Nations. So that conversation coming up after 8. Also after 8 o'clock, you're going to want to stay tuned. It's been closed since 2020, but Winnipeg's Revolving Restaurant has a new tenant. We're going to speak to the man who plans to open up a brand new fusion spot there very soon. So stay tuned for that conversation. But right now, though, it's time for Morning Sports with Scott Regehr. Good morning.
Hey, Corey.
So some good news in baseball this morning, and we're not talking about the Blue Jays.
No, they fell to Kansas City last night, Corey, and are thus 3 games out of a playoff spot. The good news surrounds, well, a couple of things. First off, how about Winkler's Tristan Peters, who had a 3-hit game for the Chicago White Sox last night. One of those hits, a home run, and so Peters has homers in 4 straight games now for the White Sox. He's also been playing great in the outfield. Chicago poised, and they have not been a very good team over the last several years, to win the AL Central Division with the Manitoban right at the forefront. That's pretty good to see.
Amazing.
Also good to see. How about Canada's team at the Little League World Series? Vancouver's Little Mountain neighborhood is where the team hails from, and they beat South Korea yesterday 5-1. Their second big upset, Corey, in as many days after also topping Panama. Pitcher Kian Sandu was asked what's been behind their success.
We're used to be the underdogs because in provincials, Langley mercied us. And even in the game before, all the pressure's on Panama. If we lose, it's as expected. If we win, big upset. Then we won that, so we're hyped. This game, same thing. Everyone thinks Asia Pacific's going to win. If we lose, no big deal. But then, all the pressure was on them. We had nothing to lose. Then we just played really good.
They were especially really good in the first inning where they scored 4 times. Not only would that be enough to win the game, Corey, but it invokes... Four runs in a game invokes the ice cream clause. Manager Brad Dorwart has a standing promise to buy ice cream for the entire team whenever they manage the feat. It is a 12-year-old baseball star's answer to champagne. And let's hope there's no ice cream hangover because Canada is back at it today, Corey, against Japan. A victory in that one would leave the Canadian kids just 2 steps from the championship game, something no team from this country has ever won before. And the first pitch today goes at 4 Central Time.
I still can't get over how precocious those kids sound in all those interviews. They're just amazing.
So before, in the professional ranks, they've had the PR people get a hold of them and get them on the message track. Isn't it nice? Unfiltered thoughts.
Yeah, very, very amazing. Well, up next here, moving over to tennis now, where it will be another big day at the U.S. Open.
With 3 Canadians, Rebecca Marino, Carson Branstein, and Bianca Andreescu, Corey, all playing qualifying matches today to try to get into the women's singles draw. We also have the semifinals in mixed doubles to look forward to, and seldom has that discipline attracted so much attention. That's because the U.S. Open has changed the format, encouraging big-named singles players to pair up. And so it resulted in teams featuring Carlos Alcaraz and Serena Williams, as well as Novak Djokovic and Aryna Sabalenka. Now, it's not just the star power, Corey, that's created intrigue, but in some cases it's been the unique male-female dynamic. There was the mother-son vibe going on between Williams and Alcaraz yesterday. Alcaraz, 21 years, her junior. They both agreed that on-court results would take care of themselves just as long as he did everything Serena told him to do. There's also the married tandem of Alina Svitolina and Gael Monfils. They're through to the semifinals, and Monfils says that's because he takes her lead, adding, happy wife, happy life. Also in the semis today, Russians Andrei Rublev and Mira Andreeva, who revealed a secret after their last win.
I've never said anything, but I've never told him anything as well, but I used to have a little crush on him as well, so, it's like a dream come true to play together, to get the win together and create so many great memories, so yeah, I'm super happy to play by his side.
10 years Andreeva's senior, the red-headed Rublev told reporters, when you're as young as she is, your taste hasn't quite developed properly yet. And by the way, for all the color this is providing, the U.S. Open's new mixed doubles format, Corey, has proven to be more than just a gimmick. Although several traditional doubles teams were involved, none of them qualified for the semifinals.
And quickly here, let's just finish with hockey. Even though it's the off-season, it's been an eventful week in the PWHL.
Yeah, eventful. You may have heard last week the Walter Cup, the league's championship trophy went missing. It was supposed to arrive in Alberta to spend the week with Victoire forward Dara Gregg. Gregg did apparently receive a container. It just didn't have the cup inside of it. Well, The league says, as of yesterday, they have recovered said Walter Cup. That's good news.
What a mystery. Well, thank you very much, Scott.
Yep.
That is Scott Reguer with your morning sports. And time now for your CBC News from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it is 18 degrees. It's going to be a gorgeous day. A little on the windy side, but lots of sun and seasonal. A high this afternoon of 24. The owner of a company that sets up solar systems is bracing for the impact of Canadian counter tariffs on some electronics he imports from the U.S. That is one of the areas where Canada is hitting back with a 25% tariff. Reynald Pambrun runs Ray Solar out of Winnipeg and Kenora. Some of the components for its solar systems come from the U.S. Pambrun says he needs to get products like inverters from the States.
I'm sorry to hear Dolly passed. Well, that was shocking.
We work closely with our brokers that work on the US and Canada side, and they're very well aware of all the products. It does cause us more paperwork. There's some products that we cannot go without, so we're stuck paying the tariff.
Pambrun says the relief measures unveiled by Ottawa yesterday will help a bit, but he worries about the broader impact of the trade war on the economy. A lot of uncertainty in Winkler's manufacturing sector amid this trade war between the U.S. and Canada. Winkler Mayor Harry Seaman says businesses are pausing investment as they figure out what's happening. He says manufacturers tell him they are very concerned about counter tariffs, as they'll have to pay tariffs on items they bring in on top of those tariffs that they ship out.
That's really hard. And we understand that there's a lot of moving pieces to this and that there are many things that we don't necessarily fully get in terms of the bigger stage. But the difficulty today is very real. The uncertainty is very real, and it's extremely concerning to many of our manufacturers.
Seaman says people he's spoken to are generally supportive of working with governments to find a solution, and that does not involve signing a bad deal. A motion has been put forward calling for the Southern Chiefs Organization to hold a special summit on the future of Grand Chief Jerry Daniels. The motion was moved by Lake Manitoba First Nation Chief Cornell McLean. McLean says he resigned from the Chiefs Executive Committee 2 months ago. He cited staff turnover, issues with the Grand Chief's office, and a lack of transparency around meetings, board appointments, and projects.
Obviously, we want to have a look at his leadership, challenge his leadership and bring our concerns forward that we have.
In a statement to CBC News, SCO says it has recommended the concerns be addressed at its next regular summit in the fall. The organization says it is committed to transparency and respects the right of all chiefs to raise concerns and to ask questions. Winnipeg police are adding an AI translation tool to body-worn cameras being tested by officers. The new feature will allow officers to communicate with people in more than 50 languages. Karen Pauls reports.
Translate to Spanish.
In this promotional video, the AI program recognizes a language, translates it into English, and then translates the officer's response back.
Speak like normal, okay? I won't move it.
Winnipeg Police Deputy Chief George Labossiere says it will allow people the opportunity to express themselves in their first language.
When you're dealing with an emergency situation, the emotions are high. It might be difficult to articulate what you want to say. To let them say it in their native tongue is so much easier. And I think
about 40 officers are currently using body-worn cameras, and they're being trained on the new translation program. Police hope to launch it by Friday. The video gathered by the cameras is stored on a cloud, and Labossiere says the service is taking steps to protect that data. The technology already includes AI that automatically redacts or blurs sensitive information it might pick up when recording cell phones, computers, and tablets. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
As the trade war between Canada and the U.S. escalates, at least one food bank is making use of American produce not being picked up at grocery stores. Harvest Manitoba says it's already seeing an uptick in donations of U.S. fruit and vegetables from grocers. President and CEO Vince Barletta says the push to buy local is opening an opportunity.
even when that produce does get left on the shelf, an organization like Harvest Manitoba is able to get it and make sure that it does get onto a kitchen table that's in need here in our province.
More than 50,000 pounds of food move in and out of Harvest Manitoba facilities every day. It's unclear how much of that consists of U.S. product. A Manitoba woman who brought Dolly Parton's Imagination Library to thousands of First Nations children in this province is devastated by the music icon's death. Parton started the Imagination Library. It sends books to children every month up to the age of 5. Karen Davis started as a volunteer with the program and then moved to Tennessee to work for the superstar. She says it's hard to believe Dolly is gone.
I'm sorry to hear Dolly passed. Well, that was shocking. I know the day was going to come, you know what, but Dolly has so much spunk and sass. It seemed like she was going to live forever.
Davis says Parton's Imagination Library is now in 63 First Nations in Manitoba. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That's Heather Wells at your CBC News Desk. Well, time now to check in with Abby Adeyemi with a look at your weather. Hi.
Hi, Corey. We're looking at a beautiful day overall across board. We're seeing widespread sunshine already. The south will be warming up to about the 24-25 range, along with some breezy winds coming from the northwest. We'll see highs, as mentioned, in the mid-20s. Here in Winnipeg, current conditions show just a few clouds. Our temperature sitting near 18 degrees at the Forks and 15 at the airport. We're expecting a mainly sunny start to the day with these breezy conditions, as mentioned, developing towards your lunch break. Highs will be around 24. And then across most of the regions in the south, we're also seeing sunny conditions. Morning temperatures just sitting in the low to mid-teens at this time. For the Pembina Valley region, Morden, Winkler, Alton and Morris, we're seeing 16 degrees there before enjoying lots of sunshine. And we will see highs around 25. Then we head west towards Brandon, where we're also looking at temperatures in that region around 10-11 degrees, though we're still dealing with this early morning mist that should clear as we get into the afternoon. Expect a sunny one also, and a high of 25. For the Parkland region, we're seeing 11 degrees and sunny around the Dauphin area. This would stay with you for most of the day. Expect some northwest winds around the noon period. Highs will be around 23 degrees. Then we track into the Interlake region. Gimli sits at 15 at this time, heading for mainly sunny skies in the forecast. Breezy winds along with that, highs around 23. In the northern region, we're looking at very conditions. Some areas will be sunny, some areas get some cloudy conditions. Morning temperatures between 10 and 14 at this time. The PAR at 14, Flin Flon sitting at 11, and we see highs of 22 there. Norway House aiming for 23, current temperatures there 13 degrees. And then if we look at Lynn Lake, we're seeing 10 degrees there. Gillam sits at 13, Tudula Lake is at 10. All the regions getting close to 16, 17 degrees with a good chance of afternoon showers. Well, for the Churchill region, we're seeing 11 degrees there. We only just jump 1 degree more to get to 12 later in the day for the Churchill region. There's a slim chance of showers and some windy conditions in the mix for that region. So overall, expect a fantastic day, sunshine across board, and some breezy conditions will be felt also. Isolated showers towards the Churchill region and Thompson area. Winnipeg right now, we're seeing 18 at the Forks. We get to 24 later with just a few clouds and, of course, some breezy conditions later.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Thank you.
That's Abby Adeyemi with your weather. As for the commute, very quiet so far, but if you do see something, you can give us a call, 204-788-3093. Well, up next here on Information Radio, Winnipeg's Revolving Restaurant has a new tenant. The green flying saucer-shaped dining spot that turns as you eat your dinner has sat on the 30th floor of Fort Garry Place downtown since the late 1980s, but it's also sat empty since 2020. Now, Alfonso Mori plans to breathe new life into the iconic spinning spot, and he founded Corrientes Argentine Pizzeria. He also owns La Pampa Empanadas Gourmet, and now he plans to open his newest venture, Dos Pampas Skyline Restaurant, in the iconic space this fall. And he joins us more now to talk about it. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. So why did you want to take on the Revolving Restaurant?
Why?
Yeah, why?
Oh, I have no idea. It's a beautiful project. It was offered to me. In my future plans, wasn't ready to open another restaurant, but when I saw the opportunity and the people who owns the building touched base with me and offered me this chance, I was thinking about it, made a business plan and say, well, why not? It's so sad to see this space empty for so many years. And yeah, I think we had a nice agreement between parts and yeah, we can just make it move again.
So why did they reach out to you and why did you ultimately say yes?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the whole story, it is that I was looking for a parsley chopper for my chimichurri that we make in La Pampa Empanadas, and it's really good, probably one of the best in the country, I can say that. And and then I reached out the administration because I remember that they had a big chopper machine here, and yeah, I just came to the place to see the machine and try to buy it. And then I was talking to the administrator, and I get into the kitchen, saw the space, and said, well, it's so sad to see this empty. Why you don't just put it just to lease or something? And he said, well, we had a couple of offers. We had a couple of people interested to open a concept, but we didn't like it. We are ready to invest and just put it back to life if we can reach the right candidate. And I told him, yeah, I told him, do you think that I am the right candidate? And they say, yeah, we definitely think you are. And yeah, we started conversations, and why they offered to me, probably they trust and they know that we are a family-owned business and we are very solid, very honest, and very simple people, you know? And yeah, it was offered to me and we accepted.
So how big of an undertaking will it be now to get it back up and running and spinning, for that matter?
Well, we are, to be honest, we don't have a lot of money to invest in the place. They're making a big move, the administration itself, to bring it back to life, and cleaning and setting new equipment and new fridges and a lot of investment from them. And the revolving mechanism wasn't working, so now it's coming back to life, hopefully. Just in case we didn't put revolving restaurant, we just put skyline restaurant if we have any issue for it. But hopefully going to be back very soon in October if we can.
So October is the planned opening date then for you?
Yes, you know how it works. Liquor license, health permit, occupancy permit, all these matters take time and some procedures that we need to step on, and we are working on it. So hopefully, yeah, in October, we're going to have it open.
So what's the menu going to look like?
The menu will be basically South American, Argentinian food with some touches from the Canadian prairies, right? Like we own La Pampa Empanadas, we have 25 flavors. We're going to get some of these flavors here, but we're going to add some bison empanadas, venison schnitzels, plus Canadian beef and some different cuts that we used to do in Argentina that they are not well known here in Canada. But basically a different way to cut the steaks. We're going to have 2 or 3 premium cuts that they are quite different, like a cap ribeye steak or the steak, the ribeye steak bone-in, but cut it all along. It's quite different. So those are going to be our premium cuts, plus the regular classics cuts that we have. We have some beautiful Argentinian dry-aged cheese that is grilled. It's called provoleta. And we make our own sausages, so we're going to have our sausages as we do in La Pampa too. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to be, in particular, a steakhouse with some different touches. And as an Argentinian background that is over 50% coming from Italy, we're going to have some stuffed pastas too, like raviolis and stuff like that.
And the name Dos Pampas, can you just tell me the meaning behind it?
Yeah. Actually, the Pampas and the prairies have the same meaning. The Argentinian Pampas are the Canadian prairies. Same kind of soil, same kind of geography, like flat, no mountains. So we're going to try to do that fusion in also the food. I mean, of course, the weather is different. Pasture is different. But, yeah, like the prairies are the Canadian Pampas and the Pampas are the Argentinian prairies.
So far, like you said, there's lots of investment coming from the building's owners. What have some of the challenges been that you faced in trying to get this open?
Well, you have all the equipment. The fridges were not working properly, so they are replacing all the compressors, all that stuff, cleaning carpets and repainting, new equipment. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And they've been very nice and very grateful and from them because they invest real money. They wanted a restaurant. They don't wanted something like, no VLT machines, no crazy projects, 4 floors, lounges. No, they just wanted a restaurant, give to the city a restaurant. They were less interested in how much money they can make, and they wanted just to offer the city another chance to have this beautiful place, right?
And before this, of course, a few restaurants have already tried to make a go in the revolving restaurant location, but it ultimately didn't last. There's been a couple iterations in there. So how are you hoping to make this venture work in the long term? What's your plan?
Well, you when you build a restaurant, you always just make it to the long term. I think we're going to have honest and solid food, classic, and good service, a very good chef working on it, solid kitchen, and that's it. I think the secret is that. If all the projects, they fail here, I disagree a little bit. I think the place was running anyway, and after the pandemic, it was shut down, like a lot of restaurants, right? So it wasn't the only restaurant to shut down, but the Prairie 360 was working until 2020. Mm-hmm. And then the pandemic came. So I don't know if we can judge the Prairie 360 as a bad restaurant or a bad spot, right? Everyone has an opinion about everything, but I don't know. We own Corrientes for over 10 years with my wife, and we make it work. Corrientes is still going on and was opening in 2012. And we own La Pampa. The first La Pampa going to be 10 years already next February. So we like to make brands that stay long. So hopefully we're going to do the same here.
Finally, before I let you go here, what do you think it's going to feel like on opening day after all this work you put into it?
Sorry?
What do you think it's going to feel like on opening day when those first customers come through the door?
Well, it's hard to say. But again, when your product is solid and good, I think the people are going to be happy. The view is outstanding, and the food is going to be a part of it. And I don't know. Again, everyone has an opinion. We are making food for years already, and our products always succeed. So hopefully we're going to have the same. And I think it's giving back to life, this space. It's important to the city and for us as entrepreneurs too. And I think we're going to have a good feeling. Yeah, it's a classic restaurant. No, you don't expect something.
And any dollar figure that you can give us on how much money has been put into this?
No, I don't want to talk about that.
That's fair. Had to ask. Well, Alfonso, thank you very much, and best of luck as you put the final touches over the next couple months into the restaurant. Appreciate it.
No, not a problem, and hope to see you here very soon.
That is Alfonso Mori. He is the owner of Dos Pampas Skyline Restaurant. He hopes to open in the revolving restaurant on top of Fort Garry Place in October.
I'm Chelsea Kemp, your local reporter for CBC Manitoba and Brandon. You're listening to CBC Radio One.
Well, let's keep talking about food, but from a very different angle. Well, a Manitoba man had a desire to connect people to Canadian-made products, so he made an app during the first round of U.S. tariffs. It was so popular that it maxed out his servers, but he's ready now for round 2. Hashim Farouk is the founder of the app called CanMade, and he joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. So last year, let's just kind of back up a little bit here. You launched CanMade, and it's been active this whole time, right?
Yeah, it's been active in the background for about, I guess it's been over a year now. I didn't really get much chance to work on it as much as I would have liked, just because of other commitments. But yeah, it's been going on in the background. It's done amazing in terms of numbers, and the feedback's been great.
And what have you now seen since Friday when the kind of the trade war really started to heat up?
Yeah, I think a lot of it had to do, I've received a lot of emails from just like frustrated consumers. I think a lot of it had to do with just like how hard it's become now to like buy Canadian products. A lot of, you probably go to your local superstore or Walmart and you'll see like a little Canadian flag on like a product, and you're going to assume that it's like a made in Canada product. But then you'll like, you'll dig deeper into it and you'll realize it was like imported into Canada, and that's why they're allowed to put the Canadian flag on there. So like I've seen a big of a resurgence of the app, and gained a little bit more popularity to this last couple of days.
And how does the app work? You just remind people.
Yeah, so basically it's a database of a bunch of SKUs. So you just while you're doing your grocery shopping, you can take the product and scan it, and it'll give you a history of the product, where the ingredients are from, and where the product is from. And then it creates like a grocery list for you, and you can see what percentage of your grocery list was made in Canada products.
Okay, and how many Canadian products are on it, and how many can you actually can you handle? What's it like trying to verify them as Canadian? That must be tough.
Yeah, it's super hard. I mean, at one point there was a group of us called the Canadian Collective that was developed, and so we had about 5,000 verified products. There is like over 1 million products on the platform using open source data, but there's only about 5,000 verified.
Okay. And how much work is it to verify just one of those products?
It's a lot of work. I rely heavily on volunteers. On our platform, you can sign up as a volunteer and you can go around and you can scan products. Those are like crowdsourced verified, and so they're not verified by me, but they are verified with someone else on the platform. So yeah, it's been extremely difficult. I've definitely needed a lot of help. So I've been trying my best to outsource as much of it as I can.
And now this actually hasn't just garnered interest from Canadians. You've actually gotten responses from other countries about it. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so after I released the app, I think roughly about a couple months later, it made its way all the way to Europe. And I got a lot of feedback from a couple of people from Switzerland, a couple of from Finland, a couple of from Norway, just asking about like, why doesn't this exist for European companies? And they want to go just beyond just food. They want to know, like where their household products are coming from, things like that. And then as I was talking to them, they just want to support Canadians. They were like, we'd rather buy a Canadian product versus an American product. So then I'd like made it so that people in Europe can also download the app as well. And so they were now trying to support Canada as best as they could from over the ocean.
And I also understand this has kind of led you to work on another project. It's an app called Made Where. How does that work?
Yeah, so the whole idea is it's essentially just CanMade, but it goes beyond just Canada. It helps people understand and be able to track exactly where their products are coming from. So whether it's like makeup products or, it's your home furniture, you'll be able to look it up and you'll be able to see exactly where it was made, what factories it came from, and what countries it came from.
Okay. And have you heard from anyone from the US at all about this app?
Yeah. So I actually got a lot of feedback from Americans that actually want to support Canadians as well. So Americans were like, oh yeah, I want to help my neighbor up north, and I want to buy more Canadian products. So I've had a lot of positive feedback from them.
Oh, wow. And in terms of, what your plans are to add to the app, and with all this renewed interest, what's happening now? Are you finding a resurgence of people volunteering to verify stuff and people just coming to the app in general? Are your servers going to be able to handle this next round?
Yeah. No, I definitely built it out this time around for it to handle a lot more server connections. And with this resurgence, it definitely motivated me a little bit more to make some more updates to it. It's pretty much there now. It's all just about collecting data. So if there's people out there that want to volunteer on the app, it's free to sign up. The app is still 100% completely free. So you're more than welcome to go up there, sign up and start helping with some data collection.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have exact numbers of just how much it's gone up since this last Friday?
Yeah, I mean, since this last Friday, I've seen it went, so at its peak, it had about 5,000 active daily users. At its peak with I think roughly 55,000 downloads that happened over 2 weeks. That was back in February of 2025. And now I've seen a bit more of a peak. So we're looking at roughly 950 to 1,200 daily active users.
Wow. Okay. And how much of your time do you think you just spend on this app now? Because I know you'll also have a life outside of this.
Yeah,
app
I mean,
too.
I got work and some other stuff, but I spend some of my nights on it. So anywhere like my 9 to 5s is more of my 5 to 9. So I definitely spend a lot of time on this.
Right. And now you've got this app, you got that other app you're working on. I also understand you're now also thinking about a related website called Decoding Canadian tariffs. So tell us about that plan. And
So that kind of ties into CanMade. So the idea is tariffs are already super hard to understand. It's hard to know exactly what products are being tariffed. And we kind of just say the prices go up in the grocery store. So I just want like people to understand exactly why prices in grocery stores are going up and why like the grocery bill is going up every week or every day. And a lot of that has to do with like, like something as simple as like dairy, for example. Like I know Canada has like a lot of dairy, but some of it's like imported from US or whatever it is. And like you'll see prices of milk go up, but you won't understand why. Like, maybe you might think, oh, we don't have enough dairy anymore. But I just want them to know like, it's because of tariffs. That's why prices are going up. So sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to know after all this, this is like kind of a free side hustle that that you have. Why are you so motivated to do this?
I mean, ever since I was like a kid, I'd always been told that you should try to help the community as best as you can, but use your superpowers as per se in order to do that. Like you don't need to go do this extravagant thing to like help the community. Just do what you can do. And the best thing that I can do is build software. So I kind of use that. Like I make money in other ways. And so I don't need this to make money for me. I mean, obviously it's good PR and all that, but it definitely helps me stay motivated to work on other projects as well. Because some of the other projects that I build don't see this social impact as much as CanMade has seen so far.
And if there's a Canadian company that maybe that's listening right now, an owner, and who's like, hey, I got the paperwork to verify very easily that this is a Canadian-made product, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me at hashim@bytesavvy.com, bytesavvy.com, and just shoot me an email. And I'll be more than welcome to add your product to my database.
Well, Hashim, thanks again for your time and coming on to explain this to us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Hashim Farouk is the Manitoba founder of the CanMade app. He's based in Brandon. Well, 7:57 right now, and still to come here on Information Radio after 8. How are consumers managing to buy Canadian at the point of sale? We're going to talk to someone who has been grocery shopping in Winnipeg, trying to navigate all the information on signs and product labels. We're going to hear from Winnipeggers about just how confusing it is to find Canadian-made products at the grocery store and what they want to see done at the legislative level to change that. So that's coming up after 8 o'clock. But right now, though, let's check in with Heather Wells with a look at news headlines.
Good morning. Well, some business owners in Manitoba don't think counter tariffs are the way to go. Canada's counter tariffs on the United States will target steel and aluminum, among other products. Barry Wiebe owns Wiebe Steel Structures in Morden. He says the U.S. has always been a good neighbor and has a strong leader. He says we should be working with the U.S. instead. Winnipeg police are adding an AI translation tool to body-worn cameras being tested by officers now. The new feature will allow officers to communicate with people in more than 50 languages. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
Thank you very much, Heather. And also still to come here on Information Radio after 8 o'clock, of course, country music legend Dolly Parton passed away yesterday at the age of 80. Well, coming up on Information Radio, we're going to speak with a Manitoba woman who had the chance to meet Dolly multiple times, and she actually worked for one of her charities in Tennessee and helped bring books to 63 First Nations here in Manitoba. So that story coming up after 8 o'clock. Commute's quiet so far. You can call us if you see something, though. 204-788-3093. I'm Corey Funk, in for Marcy Marcusa. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio One. We'll be back after World Report. Stay tuned.
Heard the news that cultural icon, country music star Dolly Parton died this week. She was 80. Over the years, I was lucky enough to speak with Dolly a few times, so you're going to hear one of our conversations, the one from 2020, and she talks about writing one of her biggest hits, Jolene.
Please don't take it even though you can.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Susan Ormiston. Baby puffins, or pufflings as they're called, are leaving their nests for the first time and heading out to sea. But artificial lights can send them off track. how the Puffin Patrol is steering them right, coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Martina Fitzgerald. Hundreds of people are missing after flash flooding in Nepal on the northern border with China. Many are foreign nationals, but so far there has been no word on whether Canadians are among the casualties. The numbers keep changing, but at last check, 22 people are confirmed dead. Authorities say entire villages have been wiped out. The CBC's Willie Lowry is following developments from London. Willie, what do we know so far?
So it happened early this morning in the areas of Rasua district in northern Nepal and Jurong County, Tibet. A flash flood ripped through the area. Videos circulating on social media show a deluge of muddy water devouring buildings and cars. One video appears to show the flood washing away an entire border checkpoint. The Nepalese Tourism Board estimates that some 384 people are missing, 93 Nepali nationals and 291 foreign nationals. Among them are people from the US, UK, Australia, and India. Officials, however, warn that the death toll will likely rise as the full scope and scale of the devastation begins to come into focus.
And Willie, what are authorities saying about this disaster?
China's official state news agency says a landslide destroyed roads and entire villages and cut communication and power in the region. China's state broadcaster says over 570 rescue workers have been deployed to the area. While authorities have yet to officially confirm what caused the flood, they say an earthquake in the area could have triggered an avalanche that poured mud and rock into the Boti Koshi River, causing it to overflow.
That is the CBC's Willie Lowry in London. Thank you, Willie.
Thank you.
A warning now to our listeners, the details of this next story are disturbing. At least 14 babies have died in a fire early this morning at a hospital nursery in Pakistan's capital. It happened at the Pakistan Institute of Medical Sciences in Islamabad. At least one baby was rescued. Officials say the fire started after an air conditioning unit exploded inside the nursery. This woman was at the hospital when the fire broke out.
At around 6 a.m., the fire erupted, but the staff and doctors did not inform us about this. Rather, they fled the scene and saved their own lives. There was a lady who screamed and informed us. When I went upstairs, the fire was spread so much that it reached our room. Then I first rescued my nephew, then I evacuated my sister-in-law.
A number of government agencies have been called in to investigate. Pakistan's president is urging hospitals to re-examine their fire safety measures, particularly in wards caring for newborns. In Russia, hundreds of workers run away from a natural gas plant to escape a fire. 7 people, including 6 Chinese nationals, are dead. The plant is a joint project of a Russian petrochemical company and a Chinese oil and gas company. 9 Chinese workers are reported missing. More than 100 people were treated for injuries. It's not yet clear what caused the fire. In just under 2 weeks, Canada's counter tariffs go into effect against the U.S. Nearly 900 U.S. products will be hit with billions of dollars in retaliatory tariffs. This growing trade war between Canada and the U.S. could be harder on some states than others. Ohio, a red state, is one of them. Its relationships in the steel and manufacturing sectors deeply intertwine with Canada. And as the CBC's Katie Nicholson reports from Ohio, some there are wondering if this tariff tiff could swing the state blue in the coming midterms.
As players shake hands against a pink sunset on a Youngstown, Ohio baseball diamond, Patricia Vandervoort and her friend Pam Hall are thinking about a very different game being played with much higher stakes.
We don't want Canada to hold it against us citizens. It's not us.
Yeah, it's not us. We don't like them any more than you do.
The women aghast at the escalating trade war between Canada and the U.S. that will likely impact Youngstown, once the heart of America's steel country.
Everything's going to be more expensive.
And it'll affect our factories. People will lose their jobs.
Canada is Ohio's biggest customer, consuming 1/3 of its exports. Many about to become more expensive as Canadian counter tariffs kick in, which could carry political ramifications, says Larry Kelly, leaning against a van in a parking lot with his teammates.
I think it's going to have a dramatic effect on the midterms.
You always have a midterm swing. This could cause the pendulum to swing a little bit more.
Guy Caviello is the president of Youngstown's regional chamber. While he says the data shows that the tariff war is doing more damage than good, some businesses have reaped benefits.
Sometimes in those meetings, I've got a chamber member that is trying to argue against tariffs sitting across the table from a chamber member that's embracing the tariffs.
Whether that embrace leads to Republicans retaining seats, a question that will be answered in 10 short weeks. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Youngstown, Ohio.
At a time when we're being encouraged to keep our elbows up and buy Canadian, one grocer is facing fierce backlash. Loblaw recently dropped the country of origin information on its produce, meaning customers couldn't see what was grown here in Canada. But as Sophia Harris reports, CBC News reached out, and now the company is backtracking.
It seems to me like a really un-Canadian thing to do during these times. And
Carl Mueller of Edmonton says he's one of those elbows-up people. So he was disappointed when he recently noticed his local Loblaw-owned superstore had dropped country of origin labeling for fresh produce, leaving shoppers on their own to figure out where their produce comes from.
As just an ordinary citizen, my only way of fighting back is to support Canadian businesses, to shop local.
Loblaw dropped the produce labels earlier this month in stores in most provinces, sparking customer backlash.
They're probably thinking, boy, we picked the wrong week to pull the labeling.
University of Alberta agricultural economist Ellen Goddard predicted on Monday Loblaw would rethink its decision following the launch of a fresh Canada-U.S. trade war.
I suspect they're counting the number of messages and social media blogs they are seeing and phone calls they're getting from customers.
After CBC News reached out to Loblaw, the grocer said it's bringing back the country of origin signage in their fresh produce aisles. We shared the news with Mueller.
I think that's wonderful, and it shows you the power of ordinary people making their voices heard.
However, Mueller says he won't fully rejoice until he sees country of origin labels back in his superstore. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
Fans and fellow musicians are sharing their tributes to and memories of Dolly Parton. The country music legend, actor, and philanthropist has died at age 80 after a brief battle with cancer. Steve Futterman reports.
Throughout the world, her voice is reverberating. Yesterday, here in Los Angeles, flowers were placed on Dolly Parton's star on the Hollywood Boulevard Walk of Fame. Fans came to remember.
Life is not always about sorrow, it's about celebration.
Some got emotional.
She was my icon, so it's hard to see an icon go.
In the UK, at a theatrical performance of 9 to 5, Dolly Parton's most successful film, they paid tribute.
We dedicate tonight's performance to Dolly Parton.
In death yesterday, Dolly Parton did something very rare in 2026. She brought a bit of unity. Donald Trump paid tribute to her, so did New York Mayor Zoran Mamdani. What was it that made Dolly Parton so great? The talent, of course, the beautiful, distinctive soprano. There was also the honesty of her lyrics. In Coat of Many Colors, she sings about wearing a coat made of rags by her mother and being shunned by schoolmates. It really happened.
My coat of many colors that my mama made for me.
In so many ways, Dolly Parton was a larger-than-life figure. Today, millions of fans are making it clear they will always love her. Steve Futterman, CBC News, Los Angeles.
I could be in my coat of many colors my mama made for me.
And there is much more on Dolly Parton on our website, career highlights and lots of quotes, including from a show 10 years ago before a crowd of 4,500 in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Martina Fitzgerald. This is CBC News.
Making fun of me and my coat of many colors my mama made for me. And oh, I couldn't understand it, for I felt I was rich and I
And not a surprise, Dolly Parton had a big impact here in Manitoba as well. You're listening to Information Radio here on CBC Radio One. I'm Corey Funk, in for Marcy Marcusa. Coming up this half hour on the show, we're going to speak with a Manitoba woman who had a chance to meet Dolly multiple times. She actually worked for one of her charities and helped bring books, her Imagination Library, to 63 First Nations across Manitoba. So stay tuned for that conversation. Also, this hour on the show, some shoppers say grocery stores need to do a better job when it comes to labeling the country that food comes from, especially now in light of trade talks collapsing and a renewed public effort to shop Canadian. We're going to hear from local shoppers coming up first here on Information Radio. Stay tuned. (8:11) right now. Let's check in with Heather Wells with a look at news headlines.
Good morning. Well, the owner of a company that sets up solar systems is bracing for the impact of Canadian counter tariffs on some electronics he imports from the U.S. That is one of the areas Canada's hitting back with a 25% tariff. Reynald Pambrun runs Ray Solar out of Winnipeg and Kenora. He says he needs some of the components for his solar panels from the U.S. And the relief measures unveiled by Ottawa yesterday, he says, will help a bit. The leadership of SCO Grand Chief Jerry Daniels is being called into question. A copy of a motion obtained by CBC News calls on the Southern Chiefs organization to hold an emergency summit to consider Daniels' future. We'll hear more in our next local news at 8:30.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That's Heather Wells at your CBC News desk. Emmy is in now with a look at your weather. Hi.
Hi, Corey. We're already enjoying the sunny start across the region. Some breezy conditions will sweep in later. Overall, it's going to be comfortable. We'll see highs reaching the mid-20s across most of the province. Here in the city, we're looking at temperatures around 18 at the Forks right now. The airport has jumped to 16. Sunny conditions. We're heading for a high of 24 with breezy northwest winds. And that's what we will see across the southern regions. Mainly sunny skies will dominate the Pembina Valley, the Westman, the Parkland, Interlake region. All regions will see highs close to 25 degrees, while for the northern regions, we're going to see more like cooler conditions with scattered showers sporting towards the Churchill and the Thompson area. But Winnipeg right now, we're looking at 18, aiming for 24 later.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Sierra Sanders is in now with a look at your commute. Hi.
Hi, Corey. So far, it has been pretty quiet on the commuter line. I haven't heard of any major incidents or backups, but I did get a call from Tim about northbound Osborne just before the underpass there as you're approaching Confusion Corner. He said that there was a parked car in the curb lane there, which was causing some backups as folks would approach approaching Confusion Corner, I should say, and then having to get over there into that left lane. So you want to be aware of that if you are heading down northbound Osborne towards Confusion Corner. Just before the underpass, there is a parked car in the curb lane that you're going to have to get around. So far, only thing I've really heard that's going on out there. But if that changes, we still have some time. Give me a call on that CBC commuter line. The number is 204-788-3093.
Well, as terms like tariffs and counter tariffs become part of our daily language, many Canadians are more motivated than ever to shop local. But some shoppers say grocery stores need to do better when it comes to labeling where food products actually come from. CBC's Santiago Arias Orozco spoke to some shoppers putting away their groceries outside of a superstore here in Winnipeg.
Lourdes Diaz.
So how easy or difficult is it to find information about the country of origin?
That's not very easy to find a Canadian. You have to have glasses and make sure you read it because they're so small letters sometimes. And that's not as easy as we want to. But because if I find a product Canadian, I want to buy America. That's for sure.
But like, for example, that bag that you have over there, like, would you know, like looking at it, how do you know where it comes from? Like, is it easy to find?
Not really. No.
Michael Smith. Like these things, it comes from Canada, it's labeled. A lot of the stuff is labeled. but I actually asked one of the produce fellows to go into the back and tell me where the celery comes from. It's not labeled. There's no label anywhere. I want to know where my food comes. And in the, when we're into a trade war, I don't want to buy U.S. products. I like to support my Canadian farmers. I like to support Canadian producers, and to take that choice away from me is irresponsible, especially in these times. It's not consistent. I like consistency, so I pick up products from Canada. These mandarins, they're from South Africa. I have no beef with South Africa.
Corey, Halliday. Dixie, Halliday. It's kind of hard now. Like, everything is just disappearing on us, and then if we do find it, it seems like it's a lot more to pay for it.
And when it comes to that labeling, what would you like to change?
How would we say that?
Bigger.
Bigger, right?
Yeah. Bigger Canadian brand or whatever. Be perfect. If it's a Canadian brand, that's what I'm going for.
Yes. And right now you couldn't find that.
Can't find them. You got to sit there and look.
Do you have the time to even do that?
No, we don't.
So then what do you default to? Just grabbing whatever?
Just grab whatever's there. Very disappointing. Like, after what Trump is doing, we need to start buying homegrown, yes.
That's what some Winnipeggers had to say about how Canadian products are labeled or not at a superstore here in Winnipeg. Now, CBC has since learned that Loblaw, which owns the Real Canadian Superstore chain, has reversed its decision to drop labeling on produce signs in their stores. The outcry began earlier this month after shoppers across the country noticed signs on produce displays which indicated where food was grown had been left blank. Clear labeling at all grocery stores is something Winnipegger Audrey Miro takes quite seriously. And for her, it started with a bag of cherries at a Winnipeg Walmart. Hi there, Audrey.
Hi.
So just take us to the moment you were trying to buy cherries at Walmart. Why do you say it was so complicated?
Because there was absolutely no labeling on any of the individual packages that the cherries usually come in. Those Ziploc sort of plastic bags in the aisle, stalls, I suppose. So I kept searching, and all I could find was like a hashtag and a product number, but absolutely no source of where these cherries came from. And I was looking BC or Ontario, and there was nothing there. So I proceeded to ask one of the Walmart workers, and she couldn't help me. By that time, there were a few more shoppers that had gathered around, and we were all looking for the source. Where did these cherries come from? Strangely, the outside container, the large cardboard boxes, were stamped with the maple leaf. So I thought these cherries are from Canada. So we kept looking, and another worker came by and said, we looked through, why is the box stamped and not the packages? Turned out the boxes come from Washington. So we continued to look, and I got more and more curious, and there were at least 5 other shoppers. And then I asked the produce manager, where did the cherries come from? So she got some paperwork and then told me that Walmart head office, which I assume to be in the U.S., gave the order that they no longer have to print or indicate for the consumer where the produce is from. And I found that really disconcerting. I normally shop at Co-op. Everything is always sourced. If I want to know where lemons come from, are they from Spain or France or California? It's pretty easy to find it. There was nothing on these cherries. And when the produce manager told me that the product comes from, can't label where it comes from, I got really upset because I feel that it's my right to know. And my thought was that I worried because there was that parasite that Americans were getting sick from. It was all on the news. So I didn't want produce from the U.S. Because I was worried about that parasite from human feces.
Yeah.
So I told the worker, I'm really worried about this. Like, I don't want to consume something that will make me very sick, my family and I.
And I also actually understand that you even called Premier Wab Kinew to talk about this problem as well.
I did. I did. I came home and I was really upset about it. And when the worker told me, she said, oh, no, we don't have to label anything. So I pointed out, I found some blueberries and other produce coming from various places in the world. I came home and I really was feeling quite upset. I phoned media stations, and I did because our premier really takes a stand on these issues. So he did. And I know his office called me back, but I wasn't available to take the call. Yeah.
And now, actually, according to the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, while certain food products are not required to include the country of origin on their labels, the CFIA does not require retailers to identify the country of origin on shelf tags, price signs, or other retail signage. What do you think of those rules, the way they stand right now?
Well, I think that that's inappropriate. As a consumer, I am careful about what I bring home to my family and myself. We have a right to know, where was this growing? There's the human rights issues that we're concerned about, etc. It's important. It should be labeled. We should know where something comes from, what it's made from, etc.
Well, Audrey,
maintain standards,
Well, thank you for your time this morning. Really appreciate you coming on to share your story.
Oh, well, thank you. I really appreciate that you wanted to hear it.
Well, all the best, and hopefully shopping becomes a little bit more easier for you. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too.
That
Bye-bye.
was Audrey Miro. CBC reached out to both Walmart and Loblaw for comment, and we did not get a response from Walmart, but a spokesperson from Loblaw sent a statement to CBC News. And it says in part, as Canada enters another period of trade uncertainty with the United States, we are once again taking steps to give customers clear information about products affected by tariffs and make Canadian products easier to identify. Customers have told us they want to support Canadian farmers, producers, entrepreneurs, and businesses. We want to make doing that easier. We are reinstating the T symbol on shelf labels for products sourced directly from the U.S. that are affected by tariffs. Customers will begin to see the T symbol appear as affected products are identified and shelf labels are updated, end quote. You can read more on the story on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
I'm Eric Westaver. I'm your local reporter for CBC in northern Manitoba, and you're listening to CBC Radio One.
Well, since the news came out yesterday, tributes continue to pour in following the passing of American country music star Dolly Parton.
My coat of many colors that my mama made for me.
Well, the passing of the Tennessee-born musician was confirmed by her family yesterday afternoon. In addition to her music and acting, Dolly Parton is also being remembered for her philanthropy. Parton's Imagination Library is a literacy program that mails books to children from birth to age 5. And for over 20 years, it's been sending books to children across Canada, including here in Manitoba. And our next guest played an important role in getting that program started in this province. Karen Davis was a volunteer and later employee with Imagination Library, and she's also a lifelong Dolly Parton fan. She joins me this morning in studio. Good morning. Or not in studio, with us over the phone, of course. So what was your reaction to yesterday's news of Dolly's passing?
Basically, like everybody else across the world, shock. because she was always appearing. She had her Caesar's Palace gig last year, and that was delayed a bit. And I know she was supposed to be at Dollywood last week for a new ride or whatever, and they basically just had a video of her, and that wasn't like Dolly. Dolly usually tried to attend as many things as she could. So I think a lot of people knew something was up, but given the fact her husband did pass away last year.
So, as mentioned, Dolly had a Manitoba connection. So tell us how her Imagination Library program got started here in Manitoba and your role in it.
Well, it's a long story, but I'm going to keep it very brief. In October 2003, I took a 45-hour bus ride to watch Jordan Tutu's debut with the Nashville Predators. And at the same time, following that, I rented a car and drove to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee to meet with the CEO of the Dollywood Foundation. At that time, the program was not in Canada, and we went back and forth, tried to figure things out. And because of customs and duties at that time, it couldn't get off the ground. So life went on, and in 2008, I was looking at a country weekly magazine, and I saw the picture of David Dodson. And I thought, I wonder whatever happened to that program. So I got his business card out, gave him a call, and the program had come to Canada in 2006 to Toronto. However, there was nothing happening in Manitoba. So I told him that I would volunteer to get the program off the ground and do the presentations and whatever else. So actually, Dauphin, Manitoba was the very first Imagination Library in January 2009, and that was followed by Ebb and Flow First Nation. They were the very first reserve to kick off the Imagination Library. And throughout the years, different communities have wanted the program. The books are free for families. They're always free for families. Everybody in that town or city is eligible. However, the communities do have to pay a small fee, and that's basically $3.85 per book, per child, per month. And the gift of that program is there's no way you could walk into Chapters and buy a brand new hardcover children's book and throw it in the mail to, one of our northern communities, Churchill or to Dooley Lake. There's just no way. So that's really the gift of the program that Dolly provides. And the Imagination Library was created in 1996, and she wanted to do it in honor of her father. Her father didn't know how to read or write, and she even says he was the smartest man I knew. But she wanted to do something to honor him, and she created in her own little town this program that would provide free monthly books. And
then before,
go ahead.
And I just also want to, because we're running a little bit short on time here, but I do want to get your connection as well, because you started working for the charity as well in Tennessee, and you actually had to meet Dolly. So especially on a day like this, what's your memory of the time you met Dolly?
Well, when I did have a chance to meet her the very first time, she came out, and it was like meeting an angel. I swear to God, the energy that she gave off, the persona and different things like that, you knew that you were in the presence of someone great. And I volunteered for the program for 5 years, and then I got a job with them for 5 years. I moved down to Tennessee. I did come home every 2 months to Manitoba to manage the communities here, but it was an experience of a lifetime. I will be forever grateful to Dolly and the Imagination Library.
What kind of conversation did you have with her? What did she say to you?
She said to me, so you're the firecracker I hear about, going to be providing books. And usually I'm never at a loss of words, but I didn't really know what to say. I was, just starstruck. But I told her, I said I was going to try my best to do what I could for the kids in Manitoba.
Well, Karen, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing about Dolly's legacy here in Manitoba and your experience. Really appreciate it, and hope you have a lovely day. I'm sure you're going to be listening to a lot of Dolly today.
Yes, and there will be thousands of children across Manitoba receiving books for many, many years, thanks to her philanthropy and her vision of increasing literacy in the world.
That's wonderful. Well, Karen Davis was a volunteer and employee with Dolly Parton's Literacy Foundation Imagination Library. Time now is 8:30, which means time for your CBC News from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it's 17 degrees. Beautiful day on the way. Lots of sunshine, a little bit of wind also. A high today of 24. Canada's counter tariffs could mean higher charges for a company that imports electronics from the U.S. Ray Solar is based in Winnipeg and Kenora. Owner Reynold Pambron says he is preparing to pay an additional 25% for parts he needs. He expects the retaliatory measures to be slapped on certain components he gets from the U.S. for his solar systems. Pambron says Canada's countermeasures will hurt him more than the tariffs imposed by the Trump administration.
The tariffs themselves, our exports roughly are about 20%. Most of them are pretty isolated, but it's the countermeasures on the dollar for dollar, say on electronic equipments, where it's going to cost us more.
Pambron worries about the impact the trade war will have on small businesses like his. Now, some business owners in Manitoba don't think counter tariffs are the way to go. Canada's counter tariffs on the United States target steel, as we mentioned, as well as aluminum and other products. Barry Weeb owns Weeb's Steel Structures in Morden. Their products can be found in manufacturing and agriculture, as well as in grocery stores.
They should be working with the U.S. I mean, they've always been a good neighbor. I know we got a strong leader in the South, and I don't think it's going to work well for us, but that's my opinion. I think we need to work with them and go for the long-term game.
Weeb says the counter tariffs on U.S. steel will have to be passed down to his customers. He hopes for financial relief, ideally in the form of provincial tax breaks. The leadership of SCO Grand Chief Jerry Daniels is being called into question. A copy of a motion obtained by CBC News calls on the Southern Chiefs organization to hold an emergency summit to consider Daniels' future. The motion was put forward by Lake Manitoba First Nation Chief Cornell McLean. McLean says one of the issues is a lack of transparency on the organization's projects.
For the big projects that are going, nobody knows about what's happening besides the board members and the Grand Chief. Other chiefs don't know what's happening. So, why not be open and transparent to us and instead of showing it on Facebook?
In a statement to CBC News, SCO says it has recommended these concerns be addressed at its next regular summit in the fall. The organization says it is committed to transparency and respects the right of all chiefs to raise concerns and to ask questions. Winnipeg police are adding an AI translation tool to body-worn cameras being tested by officers.
Language set to Russian.
Deputy Chief George Labossiere says the program has more than 50 languages in its database and will allow officers to interact with the public in the language of their choice.
If an officer should come across somebody and not even recognize the language that they're speaking, they simply have to push one small button and the device will hear and recognize that language and then translate it to English. The officer can then answer back in English or French, and it'll translate into the language of that individual they're dealing with.
About 40 Winnipeg officers are currently using body-worn cameras. Police hope to launch the translation feature by Friday. Some fresh produce from the United States is reaching kitchen tables in Manitoba, but not through the grocery store. Harvest Manitoba says fruit and vegetables grown in the U.S. are being left on store shelves here as the trade war escalates. President and CEO Vince Barletta says the food bank makes sure less of that food goes to waste.
We work with retailers of all sizes to secure that produce through our warehouse and distribute it through our food bank network. So we have been seeing, even in recent days, an uptick in that. And we'll see how that fleshes itself out in the weeks ahead.
Barletta says more than 50,000 pounds of food move in and out of their facilities every day. It's unclear how much of that involves American produce. The passing of Dolly Parton is deeply personal for a Manitoba woman. Karen Davis from Ebb and Flow First Nation worked for Parton's Imagination Library Foundation in Tennessee. The Imagination Library sends a book once a month to children up to the age of 5. Davis was instrumental bringing that program to 63 Manitoba First Nations.
At one time, we had 4,200 children receiving books on reserve each and every month. So her contribution, I can probably say she's mailed probably in the vicinity of over 500,000 books to Manitoba communities.
Davis believes the Imagination Library will be Parton's legacy, helping children around the world learn to read for years to come. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
That's Heather Wells at your CBC News Desk. Sierra Sanders in now with a final look at your commute.
Hi, Corey. Yeah, I got a call from Frank just letting me know about some resurfacing work that's going on in the Stonewall area north of the city. So kind of heading rural north Highway 8, or should I say Highway 67 there, just before the divide, kind of the Stonewall turnoff there. They're doing some resurfacing work where it only allows you one lane traffic. So flag people are there letting one-way traffic go, and then the other side goes, that kind of thing. So he said it was causing some delays there. So keep that in mind. But that's so far what I've heard this morning.
Thank you very much, Sierra. Abby, weather.
Sunny skies and beautiful day ahead across the province, except for the scattered showers we'll be seeing far north. For the south, we'll see highs close to 25, while the north, similar conditions. Winnipeg, we at 18 now, aiming for 24, and it's going to be a beautiful day with some windy conditions.
Thank you very much, Abby. You're listening to Information Radio. I'm Corey Funk, in for Marcy Marcusa. We'll be back tomorrow here on the show, but right now on CBC Radio One, The Current. Have a good one.